Okay, so hold on guys, sinaset up ko lang to. So, good afternoon. I see familiar names from
Hello. Yan, I see some familiar names from our discussion last week. So, hello guys. Again, thank you for attending again our discussion for today. So, just a recap, no, we are on section section E on internal controls. So, last week we have discussed the um, foundation of this discussion. So, we first discussed on risk. After that, how are we managing risk? So we discuss about risk assessments. Okay, how do we respond respond to risks that we have identified during our risk assessment? So doon papasok na yung ating mga controls, no? And then we have discussed what are those different types of controls. No, we have the prevent, detect, and the correct controls, and then yung mga other types of controls as well. And then we have discussed yung ating internal audit at the same time yung ating external audit. Okay, before we start guys, pa-thumbs up naman po ako if naririnig po ako ng maayos. At the same time, if you guys have any questions from our discussion last week, so feel free po to let me know so we can discuss. May mga points po bang na note po kayo or questions that you have encountered? Since guys, remember I've mentioned to you that you need to start practicing answering. So, anyone, any question? Pero narinig po ako ng maayos. Maayos po yung audio natin. Pa-thumbs up naman po sa chat box. Yun, may nag-message. Yan. Thank you, Sir Drin. Okay. Okay. Okay then. So, dito tayo nag-end. Okay. Hello, Miss Janie. Thank you po. Um, okay. So, I think we can continue if you guys don't have any question. So, again, dito tayo nagtapos last week with regards to auditing roles and responsibilities. Again, parehas lang yung ginagawa ng internal and external audit. At the end of the day, no, if you can see here, both of them are reporting to the board's audit committee. Kaya wag natin kakalimutan at the same time that both of these parties, both the internal and the external, no, they need to be independent. Okay, regardless. So, napaka-importante ng independence when it comes to auditor. Okay, gusto ko lang i-highlight yung independence. You know guys, as external auditors, hindi kami pwedeng mag-invest sa kung ano-anong investment lang. Okay? The reason to that is that baka may conflict of interest. Say for example, if I am auditing a bank, no? Tapos may investment ako sa bank ngayon. Like, for example, stocks. Ngayon very easy na lang no na bumili ng mga stocks ng mga companies. So lahat 'yon, no, lahat ng investment mo within the year, you should be able to report it to your management as part of your job. My one time, no, I just wanted to share how important it is. May one time, nagkaroon ng merge yung current engagement namin, yung account namin, which is a bank, to another company. So, and then nalaman nung manager ko na she have investment to that new company merging with our account. So for the entire period na hawak niya yung stocks niya, no, I think for a week or less than mga 3 days, hindi siya pwedeng makipag-communicate sa amin. We are not allowed to like ask for her opinion, no, with regards to the engagement or with regards to the bank that we are currently auditing. Okay? So, ang nangyari, she's forced to ibenta yung mga current um, stocks niya na nabili niya for those new company na makikipag-merge dun sa account namin. So, that's how strict audit when it comes to independence. No, every quarter nagche-check sila ng independence. Like, it's not just you actually, even your family, your spouse, or any related close family, if they have any financial relationship with um, different companies, you need to report them. Okay? Napaka-extensive actually, for example. Buti na lang hindi tayo ganun ka, ano no. Pero pag meron ka kasi, ang daming kailangan na i-fill out na form. Like, you need to inform them what's the extent, no, nung if meron kang financial anong tawag doon? Parang meron kang financial, you have a power on the financial decisions, something ganun sa company. So, that's how important independence is. Okay, so yan. I think we can continue. We have a few more slides here. At the same time, meron pa akong isang PowerPoint presentation. Gusto ko lang i-cover lahat before we proceed to our MCQs. So let's just cover konting slides na lang tong mga to. And then afterwards, let's have a break and then we'll continue with the um, MCQs. Now, there are different types of audit, guys. Okay? Ito yung usual na alam natin, yung financial audit. So financial audit is the main goal here is to ensure no that the financial statements are free from statement at the same time in compliance with all the accounting standards. Okay? Pag sinabi natin free from material statements, meaning walang nabagong mga amount, siguro meron. But for audit, always remember guys na hindi 100% testing yan. Okay? So meron tayong tinatawag po na tolerable or sorry, meron tayong tinatawag na material misstatement. Okay? So hold on one sec, sara ko lang tong door. Okay, so ano po ba yung material misstatement? Okay, for example, no, a 10 million US uh 10 million US dollar worth yung company. Yun yung net worth ng company, no? So usually guys, ang ginagawa ng mga auditor, nagsiset sila ng tolerable material misstatement. Okay? So, pag nag-audit sila ng financial statement, pag may nakikita silang um, unbalance, no? For example, yung sabi kong 10 billion US dollar worth ng company. Tapos nakakita sila ng unbalanced entries for the amount of $1,000. Okay. Usually guys, pinapalagpas yun because it's immaterial, no? Hindi papagurin ng auditor yung sarili niyang hanapin, no? Hanapin yung amount na yun. Okay, yun yung po yung silbi nung meron tayong sineset na materiality. Okay, material misstatement. Okay, but, okay, but if the reason of that $1,000 is fraud, ibang usapan po yun. Okay, kahit piso pa yan, kahit $5 yan, if they have identified that the reason of that is fraud, walang material misstatement pag fraud ang pinag-uusapan. Okay? So meaning may nagnanakaw, okay? Minamanipulate, parang ganon. So sometimes hindi yun pinapalagpas. Never yun pinapalagpas as long as they have identified that the reason of that um, unbalanced amount is fraud. Okay? Pero hindi siya fraud and a matter of, you know, rounding off, mga ganun lang siya, okay lang yun. Pinapalagpas yun ng audit. Okay? So that's your financial audit. The next one is your operational or your performance audit. Okay, so an operational audit is a thorough examination of a department, division, function, or other kinds. No, its purpose is to appraise managerial organizations' performance and techniques. So an operational audit is essentially a benchmarking activity. Please take note of that. The auditor determines the standard in the form of industry averages or information from competitors and even common business sense and assess whether the department is operating efficiently, effectively, and economically. Okay, first thing to note about this type of audit is that this is not mandatory. I repeat, this is not mandatory and compare with your financial audit. There is a need or it is a mandatory for all companies, especially those that are public owned companies, that they have an annual financial audit. They undergo financial audit once in a year. Okay? But for operational and performance audit, ito guys, kinakandak ng mga companies or organizations because they wanted to improve their operations. That's the reason why they are having this type of audit. Okay, sabi ko kanina, take note of your benchmarking activity. Okay, ano po ba yung benchmarking activity? Okay, say for example, telco companies, okay, is the cost no nung telco company A mas mababa ba siya kay telco company B. So when we do benchmarking activity, we compare it with the standards. So ano po ba yung standards? So usually, it depends. May standards yung mga telco company, yung mga banks, okay? May standards na ang set natin as much as possible. Better yung performance natin in compare with the other competitors or other common businesses. Okay, so again, operational or your performance audit is not mandatory. This is usually done by organizations or companies just because they've wanted to improve, no? They've wanted to improve their operations. Sometimes they wanted to see if they need a new process or they wanted to see if the costs that they are incurring in providing the services to their customers are mas mababa compare sa kanilang competitors or within the market, something like that. Okay, that's number 2. Number 3, we have your compliance audit. Okay, again, compliance audit is not mandatory. Okay, compliance audit, so tingnan natin yung definition niya. So internal auditor should assess compliance in specific areas as part of their role in organizational governance. They also should conduct follow-up and report on management response to regulatory body reviews. So I would just like to give an example on this one. So say for example, guys, if naaalala nyo, years back, hindi naman masyadong matagal, pero because of the technology that we have, naglabasan yung mga Data Privacy Act. A lot of regulations about data privacy. Okay? So, nagugulantang yung mga companies because at the end of the day, they need to be compliant to this new policies or to this new rule. Okay? So, ang ginagawa nila, nagkakandak sila ng compliance audit. Usually, ginagawa to ng mga external auditors. Okay? So, chinecheck ng mga external auditors what are the current policies in place ng company. Is it adherent with the current or is it adherent to the new policy, say for example, yung Data Privacy Act? If hindi, usually ang ginagawa ng mga external auditors, they suggest, they recommend kung ano dapat yung i-implement ng company for it to be compliant. Okay? So, yun yung compliance audit, no? So, hindi lang usually yung mga laws and regulations around the business, for example, sa mga telcos, lalo na sa mga banks, napakadaming laws and regulations on banks. And banks need to ensure that they are compliant on all of those rules and regulations that are in place. Okay? So yan po yung compliance audit. Again, this is not mandatory, but companies are having this type of audit just to make sure that, okay, they're okay, that they are following all the rules and regulations, whatever new policies that we have there in place. Okay? Next one. So we have other types of audit. So we have your information system, or sometimes we call it the IT audit. IT audit, this is focused on what do you call this one? Auditing, no, controls in place. This one, guys, is mandatory. Okay? Yung mga IT audit, it's mandatory for all of those companies that are selling stocks in the market. Okay? Yung mga public um, companies who are offering stocks within the market. That's a requirement for every companies that are public offering stocks. Okay? We have also your contract audit. Okay, so say for example, yung company ni Miss Janie and company ni Sir Drin, they've wanted to merge. Okay? So, yung merger, guys, it's a very tedious process. At the same time, napakaraming, anong tawag ba doon? Napakaraming um, conditions, no? All of those conditions will be documented in a contract. Okay? So, usually, just to be safe, at the same time, just to make sure that the company is understanding all of those conditions of the merger, they actually need advice, no? At the same time, they need someone external to look into if win-win situation ba yung merger na yon. That's why pumapasok po yung contract audit, no? Ino-audit yung contract. How will it affect the operations of the company? Is it compliant, or is it aligned with what is initially discussed in the merger and whatnot? Okay? So, meron din tayong mga special investigations, for example, fraud. Meron na rin tayong cybersecurity audits. So, guys, alam niyo na yun, no? Yung mga cybersecurity audit, meron na rin tayong mga third-party risk management type of audit. So, ang daming types of audit. But I wanted you like to take note what are those that are really um, um, needed at the same time that the company really needs to like conduct. So, meron tayong the financial and your IT audit. Okay? Ayan. So, we have here our audit cycle. This audit cycle, guys, ito lang naman yung parang how does the audit is done. So, I know you guys, you've mentioned last week na some of you have already experienced no, talking to one of the auditors during audit period, no? Kayong mga point of contact, kayong mga client. And it's also very important for you guys to understand what's the audit cycle. Hold on one sec lang, guys. Okay. Sorry for that. So, dito muna tayo on the right side, yung different phases of audit, no? The first one is your scheduling, which is your risk-based analysis. Okay? Usually, hindi pa involve yung mga kausap dito. Hindi pa involve yung mga client. Okay? We usually call client or point of contact or our process owners. So, usually kayo yun, guys. Yung mga nag-handle ng mga process, yun yung tawag sa inyo. So, in the phase 1, dito, it's more on the audit team. No, they do a risk-based analysis. They still try to understand, no, the business, the account, the engagement that they are trying to audit. Okay? So sa risk-based analysis, again, no, may ginagawa ring risk assessment yung mga auditors. Because again, I repeat, audit have a very limited resources. Limited yung time, limited yung number of people in the team. That's why they need to prioritize those high-risk controls. Again, guys, we've already discussed what high-risk controls are from last week. Okay, once they have identified those, they go to your engagement planning. Engagement planning is where they've identified who are the members of their team, know what will be the approach of the audit, what would be the strategy, how are testings to be done, and so on and so forth. That's your engagement planning. Okay? Sa testing, this is when they start to communicate with the process owners or with the contact, which is, for example, kayo guys. They start to communicate, ask you questions, request you evidence, no, do a testing of those samples that they have selected. That's your testing phase. Okay, after your testing phase, you have your communicating of results. Say, for example, kay Sir Michael, yung sa class, sa account niya, I mean, dun sa process na ginagawa niya, auditors have identified some issues, no, potential issues, no, so they discuss it first, no, before they document it as an issue. That is a must for the audit. Hindi pwedeng pag may nakita silang mali, ay, issue na agad. No. We call them potential issues first. Okay? We call them potential and we get information about those potential issues to really identify what causes those issues. Okay? Pag issue talaga, o di tatawagan na nating issue. Okay? So after your communicating of your results, they have the corrective action. Okay, so sasabihin nila ng mga auditors, okay, so we have identified this as an issue. So we are recommending, no, the management to do this and that. Again, it's just a recommendation. The difference of your internal and external auditors is that external auditors cannot, I repeat, cannot force the management to implement something. They are always there just to recommend. It's up to the management kung gusto nila yung recommendation or hindi. Okay? So that's your phases of your audit. Okay? Very, very, ano lang, no? This is just very general, but this is how it really works. Okay. On your left side, you can see here the components of your audit. Okay? What are the components of the audit? So first, you have your audit team. Of course, this is composed of the members of the audit, the one who will be performing the audit procedures. The second one are your experts. Okay, ano pong difference nung audit team sa expert? Excuse me. All right, sorry for that. Okay, so what's the difference of the audit team and your expert? Your audit team are the one conducting the audit. But in case they have any questions, say for example, about the organizations or about the business, about the standards about that business, they involve experts. Okay? Pero guys, as auditors, okay, if you guys are planning to be auditors in the near future, you should be skeptical. Skeptical meaning you should question everything. Hindi porket sinabi ni expert na, ito yung standard, maniniwala na agad tayo. No. Okay. We need to perform additional procedures, no, to understand why is that so. Okay. So again, audit, mere inquiry is not enough. Kailangan ng additional procedures. Okay? Again, expert does not conduct any audit procedure. They are just there to provide information just in case the audit team needs some, background about the business, background about the industry or whatnot. Okay? Number 3, very important, evidence. Okay? So yung evidence, guys, we get it from process owners or you guys, the contact, for example. So this evidence will be the basis of the testing that will be performed by the audit team. We have your audit strategy. Your audit strategy is what are the procedures to be done? How will they perform the audit? At the same time, how will they be able to um para siyang yung timeline ng audit, part na rin siya ng ating audit strategy. And then 5 is your process and documents. This is a rule on audit, no? If it's not documented, it is not done. Okay? Yun yung golden rule, no, ng mga auditors. If it's not documented, it is not done. Hindi ko pwedeng sabihin na mali po yung process nila. Okay? Hindi ko pwedeng sabihin yun. It should be documented. It should be supported by evidence. At the same time, it should be communicated, no, to the company or to the process owners na may-ari ng control na yon. Okay? So, the mere inquiries, observations, no, inspection of documents, lahat yon, guys, dino-document. That's how detailed the audit write-up or documentations are. Okay? And then last but not the least, no, ang ating audit report wherein we see there the opinion that is provided by the auditors. Okay? Hindi po share ng mga auditors yung process and mga documents nila sa kanilang mga client or sa company na kanilang ino-audit. Okay? Internal document yon ng mga audit team. No, the only thing that they share is the audit report. Meaning, what's the overall results of the audit? Okay, so yan po yung audit cycle. Again, you don't need, guys, to really memorize everything. No, we just need to know the concepts of audit. Okay, next slide na tayo. Okay, so ayan, we have ways of collecting evidence. No, it is through inspection, is it through observation. We have external confirmation. We have documentation, recalculation, reperformance of the control, analytical procedures, and inquiry. Okay, paki-highlight po yung inquiry. Inquiry alone is not enough. Okay, hindi pwedeng puro tanong ka lang. Hindi pwedeng puro tanong lang yung ginawa mo sa audit. You need to at least do inquiry plus from 1 to 7. Okay, that's how we collect audit evidence. Kaya pag napapansin niyo, guys, it's good that you have already experience, no, talking to an auditor. Usually, nagtatanong yan, may nabago po ba sa process? Is there any change in the process during the period? Okay, pag sinabi mong wala, will you able to provide me this informations, this evidence? Pwede pong bang magbigay po kayo ng one sample for us to be able to understand or to confirm that there are really no change in the process, something like that. So that's how it works. Okay, so that's your ways of collecting evidence. And here, what are the characteristics of a good audit evidence? This is very, very important. First, it should be sufficient. Okay? It should be enough to explain and to support what you are saying about the control. It should be sufficient. Number two, it should be competent. No? Number three, it should be relevant. Meaning, for example, ang audit period natin is from January 1, 2023 until December 31, 2023. No? Any evidence outside this period is irrelevant. Okay, kaya pag for example guys, lumalapit sa inyo yung mga auditor, nagtatanong ng sample, nagbibigay ng period. Pwede po ba yung sample galing sa period na to? Because they wanted to get an audit evidence that is relevant. At the same time, it should be useful. Usually, my experience with other clients is that ang dami-dami nilang binibigay guys. Which is okay, it's fine, but sometimes it is misleading. Sa sobrang dami, hindi mo na talaga nakakatch yung real picture nung ino-audit mong control or process. Okay? So sobrang dami, parang irrelevant na siya. So hindi na siya useful. So something ganun. So it's very important for auditors to really identify what are really those important evidence that they really need for their documentation. Okay? So that's your audit evidence. Okay? So you just need to know the concept of this one, guys. Ayoko lang, again, na nagugulat kayo on the exam that you weren't able to have any understanding of this characteristics of your audit evidence. And this is also applicable for internal audit, okay? So, applicable po lahat ito, no? Tong ways of collecting audit evidence at the same time your audit evidence characteristics, both for internal and external audit. Okay, guys, this is very, very important. Ang daming lumalabas na questions about audit risk model. Okay? And I've wanted you guys to really know the concept of this audit risk model. Don't worry, hindi po siya computation, but it's more of an analysis of examples. Later on, dun sa ating MCQs, you will able to really appreciate kung paano yung atake ng topic na to when it comes to question. But let's discuss it. So, again, remember guys, yung ating inherent risk and your, ano ba yung isa kan? Okay, question. Nakalimutan, tapos tinanong sa inyo. What do you call, no, yung risk after you have already performed controls? No? Yung mga naiwang risk, what do you call that again? Diniscuss natin yan last week. Anyone in the chat box? Diba yung inherent risk, wala tayong ginagawa. Wala pa tayong ginagawa. So, ano yung mga risk na nandoon na talaga? That's your inherent risk. But, if we have put in some controls in place, diba kumukonti yung risk? So, what do you call those risks? Anyone? Remember from last week? Okay. So we have your residual risk. Yes. Thank you for that, Miss Janie. Okay. Now, focus on those two things, guys, na diniscuss natin last week. Focus tayo muna dito sa gitna, which is your inherent risk and your control risk. Okay. Inherent risk, again, these are the risks that are present because no controls are in place. No? Nandun na talaga siya. Inherent siya. Nandoon. Wala kang ginagawa. So, ano yung mga present risks na nandoon? That's your inherent risk. Okay? Your control risk is that if there is a control in place, no, maganda yung control. Namimitigate niya yung mga risks. Therefore, your residual risk bumababa siya. Okay? So, bumababa yung residual risk mo. Okay. Now, this audit risk model, it's sometimes, it is related to your evidence and procedures. Okay? Your evidence and your procedures. If your inherent risk, no, if your inherent risk is high, no, you will need to have more evidence to test. Okay? You will have more evidence to test. More evidence to test meaning more procedures to be done. Okay? Kasi mataas nga yung inherent risk mo. You've identified your inherent risk is high. Hold on one sec guys lang ha. Medyo inuubo kasi ako. Wait lang po. Okay. Sorry for that, guys. Okay. Going back to your inherent risk again. Again, inherent risk is that walang control. Okay? So what are the risks present, no, if there are no controls in place, meaning as it is lang talaga. Okay? So pag walang control na naka-implement, those are your inherent risks. So say for example, for inherent risk, you are not considering any control. No? You are not considering any control in place. A good example of this one is that if the process is very complex, no, if the process is very complex, mas mahirap siyang gawin, no, therefore there might be more chances of misstatement in that material misstatement in that process. That's your inherent risk. Okay? Now, your control risk, guys, is that if the control that is implemented is not working or malfunctioning, no, that's your control risk. Kasalanan ng control. Okay? So, kaya to na putting together tong inherent risk and control risk is that if mataas yung inherent risk and mataas yung control risk, no? So what would be our approach if you guys are the auditor? Any guess from the chat box? Alam na nating maraming risk. Alam natin that the risk is high for both inherent and control risk. What would be our approach when it comes to procedures and it comes to evidence? Anyone? Any wild guess? Okay. Grabe naman si Miss Janie, adverse opinion agad. Okay. Okay. Sir Drin answered more samples. Yes. More samples at the same time, more procedures. Kasi gusto nating mahuli yun. Okay, mas mataas kasi yung risk. Substantive testing, yes, we can call it substantive testing, meaning we add additional evidence from the usual. Thank you, Sir Michael, for that. But, wag muna tayo sa opinion, Miss Janie. It's too early for us to say that there is a material misstatement and fraud in the organization. Mag-conduct muna tayo ng additional procedures, which is yun nga, more sample, substantive testing, additional procedures to perform. Okay? Now, that will be our approach. Now, let's go to outside of that circle, which is your detection risk. Your detection risk is that the risk that auditors won't be able to really conduct the audit or identify all of the risks, no, or identify any material misstatement during the audit. Okay, here's the twist. In our circle here, nag-increase na tayo ng sample, no? Increasing sample, adding additional procedures, meaning you are giving more tasks, you are giving more opportunity for the audit team to detect any material misstatement. Therefore, the detection risk will be low. Okay? Gets nyo yung logic? Since mas marami na tayong gagawin, alam natin na inherent risk and control risk are high, therefore, we are adding additional procedures. Yun yung strategy ng mga auditors, ng audit team. Therefore, their detection risk will be low. Okay? Mababa yung detection risk nila. Okay. Bakit mababa po yung detection risk? Because it's the risk, guys ha. Risk yung pinag-uusapan natin. Mababa na yung risk that they won't be able to detect any material misstatement because they are already doing additional procedures, additional actions for the audit. Okay? So, ulitin po natin. If the inherent risks and the control risks are high, you add more samples and more procedures. By doing this, you are lowering or you are making your detection risk low. Okay? Pag mababa yung detection risk, mababa yung audit risk. Okay? Guys, yung audit risk and detection risk nagsasama yan. Mataas yung audit risk if your detection risk is high. Meaning, it's kasalanan ng auditor, tong detection risk. Okay? Yun na lang yung isipin natin kung who's to blame. Okay? Yung detection risk, who's to blame? It's the auditor because they haven't performed correct procedures. They haven't obtained sufficient evidence to conduct the audit. If that's the case, then the audit risk is high. Meaning there are material misstatement within the audit and it was not identified. Okay? To successfully conduct the audit risk is high. Okay? Yan po yung audit risk model. Tingnan natin later on sa MCQs on how yung atake nung topic na to when it comes to questions. Ang daming lumalabas nito, guys. So it's really, really very important for you to know the concept. Okay? Sa control risk, who's to blame? The control. It's either walang control or the control is malfunctioning or not working as intended. Yung inherent risk, it is really like the characteristic of that control. Sometimes it's complex. Okay, sometimes basta walang involved na control dito sa inherent risk. Okay, it's just the nature of the process. Na it's inherent na mataas yung risk niya. For example, sa assets, ang pinakamataas na risk is yung cash kasi nanakawin siya. Parang ganun. Okay? So again, inherent risk as it is. What's the characteristic of that control of that asset that make the risk higher? Control risk, we are blaming the control. It's either walang control, okay, or the control is malfunctioning. Detection risk, who's to blame for this risk? It's the auditor. It's because of their procedures. It's because of the number of samples that they are testing. Okay? So yun po yung ating audit risk model. So it's the first step, no, laging ginagawa ng mga auditors is to identify your inherent risk and control risk. Why? Because this will identify their strategy, no, para pababain yung kanilang detection risk. Okay? They need to lower their detection risk for them to be able to lower their audit risk. Again, audit is not perfect. That's why we have risk. But this risk should be, again, tolerable. Okay? So that's your audit risk model. So, okay. So using the audit risk model to determine the nature, timing, and the extent of your audit procedure. So, sa madaling sabi, guys, we have your audit risk model because, no, tignan nyo dito, determine the planned audit risk. Meaning, number one, nagsiset na tayo ng tolerable risk natin of the audit. Remember our risk appetite? Discuss natin last week. Halos pareha siya ng planned audit risk. That we are saying, for example, as auditors, na okay, hanggang dito lang kami na audit risk. Okay, nag-set tayo ng standards. We assess the inherent and the control risk for us to determine our detection risk. So you see here, allowable detection risk. Again, appetite level. Tolerable level palagi tayo, guys. Okay? Again, this planned risk and allowable detection risk are, there's no standard for that. Depende palagi yan sa audit team. Okay? Depende yan sa audit team. Okay? So again, overall, the real reason why we are using audit risk model is for us to identify what should be our strategy. The nature, the timing, and the extent of the audit procedure. Okay. Timing, meaning do we need to extend our period scope? Extent of our audit procedures, do we need to perform substantive testing as mentioned by Michael? No? So all of those things. So you can see here your inherent risk, your risk assessment procedure. Okay, so you identified here. So parang dito, tinitingnan lang niya on how you've identified your inherent risk. Your control risk, you have your understanding of your internal control and your test your control. Your detection risk is your analytical procedures or test of details. And then at the end of the day, your audit risk is that wherein you identified your sufficient appropriate audit evidence. Okay? Very easy lang to, guys. Just know the concept. Okay? Inherent control detection risk equals your audit risk. Dapat yung audit risk natin, it's already planned in the very beginning, no? Kailangan nating i-assess yung inherent and control risk para makontrol natin yung detection risk. Para at the end of the day, yung target natin na audit risk, nandun pa din. Okay? Kasi guys, yung detection risk kasi, yun yung nakokontrol ng mga auditors. Kaya yun yung ginagalaw nila. You see guys, you do assessment of your inherent and controlled risk. Wala silang control doon na hindi nila mababago yung control or yung mga risk na nandun na talaga. Okay? That's beyond the control of the auditors. Okay? But to control the audit, to make sure that the audit is still relevant, no, pinaglalaroan nila yung detection risk. Doon sila naglalaro, doon sila nag-a-adjust. Okay? Make sense? Yes? Pa-thumbs up naman guys. Natutulog na ata kayo. Thumbs up naman po. Or if do you have any questions, let me know. If you need more examples, we can do so. Okay pa. Okay. Thanks, Sir Drin. How about the rest po? Okay. Thank you, Miss Janie. Okay. So that's your audit risk. Ayun. Thank you, Sir Michael. Okay. Now we can proceed to our next one, which is the Sarbanes-Oxley Act of 2002. Question, guys. Pa-thumbs up ulit. Do you guys know the story of the Enron scandal? Anyone? Narinig niyo na ba by any chance yung Enron scandal? Yes? No? Wala? Aware, but not familiar on how they do it. Okay. So, just for everyone, so feeling ko si Sir Michael meron ng a bit background about the Enron. So, yung Enron, it's a big company in the US. So, ang nangyari, their auditors are Arthur and Andersen. I believe it's Arthur and Andersen. Okay? So, hindi nyo na naririnig ngayon yung Arthur and Andersen because yun nga, nawala sila because of this scandal. Okay? So, Big Five, correct. Ngayon, Big Four na lang. Big Four na lang, wala na si Enron. Anyway, Enron is a American energy company. No, medyo malaki siya. I think sa Texas ata tong company na to. Anyway, to cut the story short, merong fraud. The management is manipulating their financial statement. Merong mga pinatayong how do we call it? Yung mga not existing sub-companies ng Enron. Doon pinapasok yung mga utang. Okay, yung mga liabilities, yung mga losses, doon pinapasok to ensure na maganda yung financial statement ng Enron. Okay? Yung Enron, it's the stock price was really high, no? Kasi nga based on the financial statement, it is really operating okay, no? Kaya mataas yung value ng stocks niya. Unfortunately, no, since the management has the capability, well, they really have the capability, but the management is actually manipulating the financial statement. So, ayun na nga. So, parang hindi siya nahuli ni Arthur and Andersen nung accounting firm, no? So, because of that, nung nakita siya, okay, I think nagkaroon, I'm not very sure on paano siya nahuli, but I think nagkaroon ng rotation. Sa audit kasi guys, may rotation na tinatawag. So for example, if you are the auditing partner, meaning ikaw yung highest position dun sa auditing firm, you have your own accounts. After 5 years or so, magkakaroon ng rotation. Kasi sometimes, para yung risk ng familiarity dun sa account, matanggal. Parang ganon. And also to have someone point of view, kasi hindi naman natin alam, no? Whenever you're conducting audit, you are also establishing relationship with your client. Sometimes those kind of relationship dahil gusto mong ikaw pa rin yung kunin na auditor, you know what I'm trying to say, guys. Nagkakaroon ng conflict of interest. Okay, so nahuli, nakita, na mali-mali. So hindi na lang siya material misstatement, but it's already a fraud. Nung nalaman, bumagsak yung price ng stocks, ang daming nalugi. I mean, ang daming naluging mga investors. Okay. Nagsara yung Enron. So, maraming nawalan ng trabaho. Nagsara din yung Arthur and Andersen, guys. So, at the same time, nakulong yung mga top management ng Enron. Okay? Because they are the one responsible for the management. Naku, parang damay-damay ba? Parang ganun. Yes, because at the end of the day, it's their responsibility, not only because they have manipulated the financial statement, but also it's their responsibility to ensure that there are controls in place to have reasonable assurance na yung mga financial statements nila are really free from material misstatement and from fraud. Okay. Tapos na yung Enron, nakulong na lahat, nagsara na yung firm and all. So year 2002, they established the Sarbanes-Oxley Act of 2002. So these are the three sections, guys, that medyo mahaba tong act na to, but these are the three sections that I just wanted to highlight. Okay? Yung section 302, okay, it mandates that senior corporate officers personally, take note, personally certify in writing that the company's financial statements comply with SEC disclosure requirements and fairly present in all material aspects the operations and financial conditions of the issuer. Officers who sign on financial statements that they know to be inaccurate are subject to criminal penalties, including prison terms. Okay. So ngayon, SOX is for Sarbanes-Oxley. So that's a shortcut for that. So yung SOX, it's already trying to establish who's responsible. Okay? Who's responsible for the financial statement. So kung sino yung pumirma dyan, usually ang pumipirma is yung CEO and CFO, your Chief Executive Officer and your Chief Financial Officer. Usually, silang dalawa yung pumipirma here. Okay, they are certifying in writing because, okay, once it's identified that there are any material misstatement and fraud in that financial statement, someone is responsible. No, someone is to blame. They are to blame. Okay, they are to blame. Now, to be fair with them, no, lumabas yung section 404. Okay. Section 404 requires that management and auditors establish internal controls and reporting methods to ensure the adequacy of those controls. Okay. Some critics of the law have complained that the requirements in Section 404 can have a negative impact on publicly traded companies because it is often expensive to establish and maintain the necessary internal controls. Okay, let's do a mapping, guys. Section 404 is talking about internal controls. Okay, anong kinalaman po ng Section 302? 302, we're talking about financial statement. You guys are correct. 302, financial statement. Section 404, internal controls. But my question for you guys is, how did you prepare your financial statement? Anyone? Based on your experience, based on your knowledge, anyone in the chat, how do you prepare your financial statement? How do you collate all of those informations? For example, a multi-million dollar company, how do you think they come up with like 12 pages of their financial statement? Anyone? Anyone in the chat? Again, guys, there is no right or wrong answer here. Okay? You have your balance sheets and your P&L cash flow. But my question, Sir Michael, is that how do you come up with these numbers? How do you come up with all of these numbers? Okay. Journal ledger, summary of accounts. Okay. How do you come up with these informations? Based on IFRS and GAAP, yes, you guys are correct. Meaning you're saying that whatever your financial statement is, it's compliant with IFRS and GAAP. Okay, bookkeeping transactions. Okay, gusto ko yung path natin. Bookkeeping of transactions or daily recording of invoices. Okay, remember guys, all of these are processes. Okay, all of these are processes, and all of these processes are composed of what? You guys are on the right path. Tama tong pinupuntahan natin. So you have your bookkeeping transactions. Nasa detailed na tayo. Nasa beginning na tayo. Nasa foundation na tayo how we get all of those numbers in a financial statement. But your bookkeeping transactions or daily recording of invoices, anong nakadikit dito? Integrity and compliance. Okay, how do you keep your integrity and competence? How do you keep it? How do you make sure that there's integrity and competence in recording or bookkeeping transactions? How do you ensure integrity and competence? Independence. Okay, what is independence? It's a what? It starts with letter R. Nope, it's not reliability. Independence is what? A requirement. Okay, it's required that you have independence. Diba? That's your rule in your, okay, that's your rule in your organization, in your company. Okay, balikan natin yung mga sagot nyo guys para masagot natin what's the connection of your financial statement and your controls. Now, the process is, na sinasabi nyo is bookkeeping transactions and daily recording of invoices. And then, gusto ko yung sagot na independence. You are requiring, take note, requirement. You are requiring your people to have independence in doing their tasks, in doing their job. Okay? Meron pa dito, complete and verified. Okay, that's also very helpful, Miss Jenny. Balik tayo dyan sa complete and verified documents. Doon muna tayo sa independence. Guys, remember yung SOD natin last week. Your segregation of duties. Okay? Your segregation of duties is a control in place. It's a control in place to make sure that your people are doing their job with integrity and competence. Meaning, whoever is recording transactions is different from the one who have custody of the assets. You see, that's your control. Ang sinasabi mo, dapat magkakahiwalay yung gumagawa nito. They have the independence, right? Okay? Another control in place here, yung sinasabi nating competence. When HR are hiring people, part of their control is to make sure that that person receives training. Training is an example of a control to make sure your people are competent. Again, that's a control. Okay? You are controlling the risk that you have incompetent people. So how do you lessen the risk? You give them trainings or you hire the competent individual. Okay? Now, balik tayo dun sa bookkeeping transactions and daily recording of invoices. Sabi ni Ms. Jenny, complete and verified documents. Now, you will establish control to make sure that all of the transactions that are recorded on a daily basis is complete and accurate. How do you do that? You have a review at the end of the month. Again, that's a control. Okay? Nagigets nyo guys kung saan tayo papunta? Okay? Yes, separation of custody, record keeping, maintenance, those are examples of controls. So lahat ng control na yon guys, naka-establish lahat. Okay? Naka-establish lahat ng controls na yon. Because gusto mo, no, at the end of the day, lahat ng data na pumapasok sa system mo, lahat ng transactions na nare-record, okay, are complete, accurate, okay, and free from material misstatement. Kasi tinatanggal mo na yung mga risks by establishing your controls. Now, if you have controls in place, then you have reasonable assurance. Again, it's not complete, perfect financial statement, but you have reasonable assurance that your company's financial statement is fairly stated. Okay? So parang ano to guys, parang pag-build ng bahay. You're making sure that your foundation or your initial components are okay, are working as intended. Kasi, for example, tama yung paglagay ng semento, lahat-lahat, no? That's your foundation. Yun yung foundation ng company mo, yung mga controls, no? Kasi guys, kung titignan nyo, no, how do we come up with all of those numbers in your financial statement? Lahat yun through processes na ginagawa ng mga empleyado. Okay? But you need to ensure, pag malaki yung company mo, you need to ensure that you are controlling, no? You are controlling your people that they are doing the correct thing. You can only do that by implementing controls. Okay? That's why, balik tayo dito sa section 302 and 404. Yung 302, no? Okay, si CEO and CFO, sila yung responsible sa financial statement. That's why if you see here in section 4, requires that the management, okay, it's also the responsibility of the management that there is adequacy of the controls in place. Kasi guys, para sa kanila din naman to, di ba? Pumirma-pirma ka sa financial statement, tapos pangit pala yung control mo, no? You will not be able, there is a big chance that at the end of the day, there will be material misstatement in your financial statement if you won't be able to really establish good controls in place. How do we, like, what's our criteria of saying these are good controls? If they can really, and as much as possible, reduce the risk at the tolerable level. Okay. Guys, nakikita yung connection na ng section 302 and 404? Let me know guys, if you have questions, we can do more example. But please, pa-thumbs up if nagigets, or hindi, we can make more examples para mas magets natin yung concept. But I want you to see how important is the connection of your financial statement and your controls. Okay? So say for example, yung, yes, okay. One more example is that balikan natin yung daily recording of invoices. That process. Yung process na yon, mali-mali yung nare-record na invoice mo at the end of the day. Laging mali. It will definitely affect your financial statement. So, your control is there, no? Mag-establish ka ng control to ensure na lahat nung nire-record mong invoices are correct and accurate. Yun yung silbi ng controls. Okay? Now, second sentence. Some critics of the law have complained that the requirement in Section 404 can have a negative impact. So yung SOX kasi guys, this is a requirement for all publicly traded companies. Meaning lahat ng companies na nag-o-offer ng stock in the market. They are required to first have a financial statement audit. Second, to have their internal controls tested. Kaya yung Section 404, madaming bashers to. Kasi requirement ni SOX na dapat pati yung controls mo na audit. Okay? Ino-audit yung controls to make sure that it's really working. Okay? Ang bashers, sinasabi nila it's often expensive, which is really are. So, mas expensive siya actually compare kay financial statement. Okay? At the same time, hindi lang expensive yung pag-conduct ng audit. It's also very expensive to maintain the controls. It's additional expense to the company, no, to implement controls. Kaya, babalik ulit tayo sa risk assessment, guys. Controls should only be implemented for those high-risk controls. Why? Because of cost-benefit analysis. Hindi pwedeng lahat ng risk, meron tayong response. Again, we choose our battles. No? Kasi perang pinag-uusapan dito, we need to ensure that hindi naman nalulugi yung company, no? Dahil lang sa mga controls. There is a company, a very big company, no? An oil and gas company. 80% of their expenses, guys, napupunta sa pag-maintain ng internal control. Imagine, 80%. 80% of their expenses, no, nasa pag-maintain ng internal control. Ano po bang cost ng mga pag-maintain ng internal control? Guys, you need to hire people. No? You need to hire more people to do the control. Hindi pwedeng may control ka, walang gumagawa. Okay? Sometimes you also need systems, meaning yung mga softwares, no, na magkakandak, lalong-lalo na ngayon. Yes, we also need infrastructures, no. Yes, ERP, for example, your SAP, kailangan lahat yon. So, mahal talaga siya. Usually, yung sinasabi kong company, ang dami nilang applications, guys, for them to ensure that their controls are really very nice, very good. So, that's your section 404. Now, your section 802 contains 3 rules that affect record keeping. The first deals with destruction and falsification of records. Again, dahil to sa Enron. Okay. The second strictly defines the retention period of storing records. I don't think. Sa US, I think it's around 7 to 10 years ang retention ng records. Iba-iba po yung retention period ha. Depende sa location and depende also sa company. Pero my standard, I think, si SOX. The third rule is that specific records that company needs to store, which includes electronic communication. So first, I think section 802 focuses on data. Okay? So the first one is what's the rule in destruction and falsification of records. The second one is retention period. The third one is what are the records that companies need to store. Okay? Which includes your electronic communications. That's why, for example, nag-resign kayo guys sa company nyo. Or check nyo, yung mga nag-resign na. You can still check their emails. I mean, yung mga email messages coming from them. I think the retention for emails are 5 years. Not sure about it. Pero ang alam ko sa US, 5 years yung sa company namin, 5 years yung retention ng mga emails. So lahat yon naka-indicate sa SOX na, okay, you need to maintain those records, especially those electronic communications. So these are the 3 important sections of SOX that you guys should be very familiar of. Okay, 302 is your financial statement. The senior corporate officers are responsible for it. Section 404, there should be an adequate controls in place, and it is a responsibility of the management and the auditors. Auditors, meaning ano to internal to guys. Okay, section 802 is about your data concerns within your organization. So again, SOX audit of financial statement and controls is a must. It's a requirement for all publicly traded companies. Publicly traded companies, all of those companies that are selling their stocks in the market. So this is a requirement. There is an annual financial statement audit and control audit. Okay? That's your SOX. Okay? If we don't have any question, we can move to your PCAOB. Okay? Ang kinakatakutan ng mga auditor. Okay? Your PCAOB or your auditing standards and inspection reports. Okay. What is PCAOB? It's your Public Company Accounting Oversight Board. Okay. Ito, hindi ko na anin tong definition, but PCAOB is the one auditing your external auditors. Okay. So, hindi porket sinabi ni external auditor. I mean, yung ginagawa, yung mga procedures na ginagawa ng mga auditing firm, ng mga accounting firm, binabantayan niya ni PCAOB. Okay? So, meron ding framework si PCAOB or standard, no? Si PCAOB, how audit should be done. Okay? So, yan po yung PCAOB. Sila yung, so for example, if you're an external auditor, yung in-audit mo last year, hindi lahat actually, namimili lang si PCAOB kung anong account yung i-audit niya. Usually yung mga malalaki. So, ino-audit niya, tinitignan niya lahat ng mga evidence na na-gather, yung mga evidence na na-document, at the same time kung ano yung mga procedures na ginawa. Okay? Kung ano yung mga procedures na ginawa ng mga auditors during the period. Okay? Pagbagsak to, ay nako, kawawa naman yung accounting firm. Okay? So that's your, usually ito guys, ang nangyayari, it's just, I think 2 weeks lang yung PCAOB review, which is, nire-review nila lahat, tapos pag may question sila, merong parang usual thesis setup. Okay? So that's your PCAOB. Now you have your Foreign Corrupt Practices Act. This is applicable for US. It's an act here in US na established. So this one, this Foreign Corrupt Practices Act, it prohibits payments by US companies to foreign government officials to secure favorable action. So bawal ang lagay. That's how we call it in the Philippines. So bawal ang lagay. Prohibited even if such payments are normal business practice in the country, and officers of the firm face personal penalties including fines and imprisonment. So pag nalaman na binabayaran mo yung mga government officials, no, para magkaroon ka ng favorable action from them, no, you will be subject for penalties and fines and even imprisonment. Bakit parang walang ganito sa Pilipinas? Pero feeling ko meron tayong ganito, pero hindi lang siya ganun hina-highlight. Okay. But anyway, that's your Foreign Corrupt Practices Act. Yun lang yung sinasabi nito. And then, last on this slide is what we call your corporate governance. Okay. From the term itself, corporate governance, how is your management, the corporate, the top management is controlling or governing or leading the company. Okay? So the structure of rules, practices, and processes used to direct and manage a company. So a company's board of directors is the primary source influencing your corporate governance. Ito yung tone of the top natin, guys, na kung ano yung vision and missions of your board of directors, kung ano yung path na gusto nilang puntahan, it will really reflect on the organization as a whole. So say for example, yung SOX natin, if they are really into risk management assessment and to implementing good controls, then they should like implement that in their company. So yun lang yung sinasabi ng corporate governance, that the board of directors rules, practices, and processes that they are implementing is really affecting the company as a whole. Okay? I have a very good example here. Nangigigil ako. Charot. For example, si ABS-CBN. Okay? If you guys are aware of what happened few years back with regards to their um, franchise, no? So, it's, you see guys, yung practice nung kanilang top management. What really happened is that, tung laban kasi ni Pacquiao, ginawa nilang pay-per-view. Okay? Pag ano ka kasi, pangrang ang issue doon is that you have the franchise. Meron ka ng franchise. Meaning, you are allowing the public, to view you freely. No? Yun yung silbi ng franchise. Ngayon, part of the rule, if you are given a franchise, is hindi ka mangsisingil. Hindi ka sisingil sa mga customers mo or your viewers. But what they did is that they they still pursue the pay-per-view of Manny Pacquiao. Okay? So that's a practice. It's not okay, it's not legal for you to do that, but you did pursue. Okay, sino nag-pursue nun? Of course, the top management, guys. Hindi naman pwedeng parang decision na lang yung director na gusto ko itong ipalabas. No, there will always be a go signal from the top. The board of directors, the CEO, the CTO, kung ano mang C-suite positions ba yan. Okay? Now, because of that, they're the one accountable. But who suffered? Their people. Okay? Their people is the one who suffered onto that. Ang dami lang nawalan ng trabaho, okay, ang daming nag-close and whatnot. Okay? So, you see how important those management's decisions are. Okay? That's part of your corporate governance. Okay? What are the rules you are implementing? What are the practices that you want your people to do? What are the processes that you are implementing? Okay, all of those affect the company as a whole. Because at the end of the day, guys, these people are really who are influencing what's happening in the organization. That's why they should be very, very careful. At the same time, they should have all of these characteristics here. They should be have accountability, fairness, transparency, at the same time, independence. Okay, so that's your corporate governance. Any question? Before I proceed to our next slide. They established a service provider Big Dipper sa Cayman Island to avoid. Sino po to? Anong company? What company is this? Oh, okay. So ABS-CBN to free zone in Cayman. Yeah, I know. Like, nagigigil ako kasi my husband is a former employee from ABS. And yeah, during that time, yung nawalan ng franchise is also one of those who were removed from their work. So nakakagigil lang, no, na parang you're not even thinking about your people. So guys, it's really very important if you guys will be in the future having all of those positions, no, you should practice this. You should think about your people at the same time, not just, very, ibang tawag natin dito. I know that this is a business, but at the end of the day, we should also be thinking about the people na will be affected by the business that we will be doing. Okay? So that's for your corporate governance. Now, I added this additional tabs here, I mean slides here, with the controls that are in place, especially that is related to technology. So alam natin guys na mateki na tayo ngayon. So the question here is that how do you protect the company? Okay, again, it's just the responsibility of your management. But how do you think management protect their company, especially in the kind of world that we have right now na parang, alam nyo, very techy na lahat. All are connected to the internet, no? All are connected to the web. All of the transactions are done online or whatnot. So anyone, guys, what do you think are the steps done? For example, in your companies, yung mga napapansin nyo lang, what do you think are those things that you guys do? That your companies are implementing? Anyone? Ano po yung PO? Baka ibang intindi ko ng PO. You can LPO. Okay, purchase order. You can unmute your mic, Sir Michael, para ma-explain mo further yung example po ninyo.
Sa company namin, pag merong let's say service provider kami yung UX design in a certain client. So yung client, papadalan muna namin siya ng purchase order, which it is signed by them. And then after we fulfill the order, that's the time we send the sales tax invoice to them. And then kukolek na namin yung pera. So it's a form of control na ginagawa namin in order to validate whether the sales is legit.
Okay. So we have controls in place to ensure that all of the sales are in place. Okay, that's good. So that's how you also protect your company from, sometimes yung mga invalid tawag dito, yung mga scam, no? Okay, that's good. What else, guys? What are the things that you can think of? For example, for payments, for example, how you protect your company's premise. Okay, lahat yon. When we talked about company, we're talking about everything about that organization. Items are fully received before payments. Pwede. Okay, so feeling ko nakakalito tong picture ko kasi mga order tsaka invoice. Okay, I'll give one example and then sundan nyo. So we're not just focus on the purchase orders and invoices here. So one thing that we do to protect the company is that employees are given password and username before unique password and username before they can have access to the system. Okay. Another example that I have is that I think na-mention natin to last week, no? That before you enter your building, tinanong ko kayo pala dito, before you enter the building, kailangan meron kang card or meron kang biometrics, no? That's how you protect your company's premise, no? Para kung sino-sino lang yung nakaka-enter dun sa building. That's how you protect your company. What else? When it comes to internet threats, how do you think, what are the steps that your company are doing? Yung mga threats sa internet. Ako ang pinakaayaw ko, guys, in my previous company, bawal mag-Facebook. Bawal mag-Facebook sa laptop. No, so I mean, if you are connected to the network, no, bawal kang mag-Facebook kasi parang binak nila yung IP address ng Facebook and YouTube dun sa network. That's one way of, I don't know, siguro, they are trying to avoid Kasi 'di ba, napakadaming mga scam ngayon sa Facebook or sa YouTube, lalo na yung mga links pag na-press mo siya, ang mangyayari is tawag dito, ang mangyayari is magkakaroon ng bang tawag doon? Virus. Okay. We have two steps verification. Yes, that's also correct. So para kung hindi kung sino-sino lang yung nakaka-access, meron kang two steps verification. Sometimes it's not just your username and password. Meron ding OTP sa cellphone mo. Parang ganon. That's good. Backup files, yes, that's very, very important na meron kang backup files. Okay, now let's proceed. Our next slide. So you have segregation of duties. Eto guys, medyo na technical term to. Yung segregation of duties, the concept is still the same. But we're just talking about the developer, the tester, and the admins here. So we're talking about access within applications. Okay? So say for example, may mga applications na dinedevelop. Okay? Yung developer should be different from your tester and your admin. Okay? Meron tayong tinatawag na production environment. So kayo guys who are doing the transactions, no, you are working in the production environment. No? That's what you call the prod infrastructure or production environment. It's the same thing. Parehas lang. Okay? Ngayon, for example, si Sir Michael, he's the manager of his department. And then, I think a good example here would be a bank para mas magets nyo yung concept ng developer, tester, and admin. So, for example, in a bank, okay, gusto ko ng program wherein people or customers can check their balances online. Okay, yun yung ating requirement. Gusto natin ng program wherein customers can check their balances, do transactions online. Now, dito papasok si developer. Okay? Gagawin niya yung program. So, ayun na yung mga codes. Okay? But, take note guys, dito sa baba. Developers develop the program in the development infrastructure or your development environment. Okay? Ano po yung mga environment? Okay. So, before I talk about this one, dun muna tayo sa environment. Usually, yung application, no? Yung application na ginagamit ninyo. Say, for example, SAP. Okay. Si SAP, meron siyang different layers. Okay. Merong different layers yung application. Guys, yung application is yung mga ginagamit nyo sa work. Say, for example, kung saan ka nagre-record ng yung transactions, those are examples of your applications. So, a good example here is SAP. Si SAP, may different layers si SAP. Meron siyang development environment, meron siyang test environment, and of course, meron siyang production environment. These are just the basic environment. Sometimes, yung ibang application, merong 10 environment yan. Depende. Depende sa application. But these are just the basic. We have your development, we have your test environment, and you have your production environment. Okay? Ngayon, si SAP, yeah, that's the application. Now, balik tayo dun sa example natin ng program na gusto natin, which is the program to check and do transactions online ng mga ating bank customers. Papasok si developer. Developer will develop the program. Okay, ide-design na niya lahat-lahat. But all of those procedures or all of those steps will be done in the development environment. The rule is for segregation of duties, developer should only have access in the development environment. Okay? You'll know the answer later on why. Ngayon, after na-develop yung change, nagawa na ni developer, okay, papasok si tester. Okay, anong ginagawa ni tester? Ite-test niya yon. Ite-test niya yung ginawang program. If tama ba siya, if yun ba yung gusto nilang functionality of the program. Okay, so say for example, si Miss Janie, she's the one who requested the program. Usually, siya yung magte-test. Okay? May checklist ka dyan. Okay. Tama ba? Ito ba yung correct font? Dapat ba maging ganito yung response pag chinek to ng client? Something like that. So, yun yung tester. Yung tester usually do the testing in the test environment. Okay? Now, pag okay na yung program, sabi ni Janie, okay na tayo dito. Pwede natin gamitin, paggamit na natin sa customers. Now, you will now deploy or put the program in the production environment. Kasi in the production environment, doon na magagamit ng ating mga customers. Okay? Now, the developer should not, I repeat, the developer should not have any access in the production environment. The one moving the program from the dev environment to the prod environment should not be the developer. So the catch here, guys, for segregation of duties is that developer should never, ever have access in the production environment. Why? Anyone? Why do you think so? Bakit? Because? Any wild guess? Bakit dapat walang access si developer sa production environment? Anyone? Because guys, remember, si developer ang gumawa. Alam niyo yung pasikot-sikot sa program na yan. And we don't want the developer na makapasok sa production environment. Baka you'll never know, baka bigla niyang ibahin yung program. No? So that's the reason behind it. But there's a exemption. Sometimes, no, lalo na yung mga small-time companies, the developer have access to the production environment because they are the one moving or implementing the program in the prod. Kasi nga, maliit lang yung company. Kesa mag-hire sila ng madaming tao, di ba? So, yung developer, binibigyan nila ng access sa production environment. But, there's a big but there. Dapat, every time na nagkakaroon ng access si developer sa production environment, no, may nagbabantay sa kanya. Guys, literal na nagbabantay talaga. So, I was able to see an example. Usually, yung manager ng developer nasa likod niya. Tapos, tinitignan yung ginagawa ng developer if tama ba or hindi. Okay? Wait lang guys, umuulan. Sara ko lang yung ating window. Okay? So, ang dami natin nakuda dito, but at the end of the day, yun lang yung gusto kong sabihin. Yung developer should never have access to prod. Pag meron man siyang access sa prod, no, as much as possible, there is a control or there's someone else as much as possible restricting the activities that that developer can perform in prod. Okay? So that's your segregation of duty. That's one thing that companies, no, implement to protect their company. That's what management can do. They should implement segregation of duties, not just here, but on other other controls as well. Second one is establishing a good information system. Okay, ano na naman po tong information system? Nako po. Okay, your information system, guys, is the system wherein you capture all of your data. Okay, that's where you do your processes. Okay, that's where transactions are made. That's what you call your information system. You will have more, we will have more discussion on information system on section F when we talked about yung ating information systems and data analytics. So, but I will just give a very, very few things here, no, when we are establishing a good information system. So it should be confidential, there should be integrity, and there should be availability of your information system. Okay. A good example here, guys, is your banks. Banks should have a very good information system. Why? Why it should be confidential? Remember, like what I've said, all of your data, all of your information are stored in your information system. Okay? So lahat-lahat nandoon. So dapat hindi to nahahack, hindi na-access ng kung sino-sino man. They should have integrity. Integrity meaning, hindi kung sino-sino yung nakaka-edit. For example, si Sir Drin. Sir Drin is part of a department. And yung department nila, they are responsible for a particular account. Yung account na yon, yung team lang niya dapat yung nakaka-modify or nakaka-access. At the same time, it's very important that your information system is always available. Remember guys, yung mga, for example, yung mga banks na laging offline. Meaning, hindi available yung information system. Because information system is also where your customers can get their informations, do their transactions and whatnot. That's your information system. Don't worry about this one. We'll discuss this one in section F. Okay? Ito, ayokong i-discuss to kasi di-discuss natin to next week.
Next week will be Monday, August 28th, 2020.
Echo, stop. Okay. Also this one, I think i-discuss din natin to. So yung system development life cycle lang. Ito yung example natin kanina dun sa implement. We have your developer, your tester, your implementer. So ito to. Whenever you request for a new change in the system, meron tayong system development life cycle na ini-implement. So hindi ko na itatouch to guys. Okay. Ito yung gusto kong i-discuss sa inyo, which is one thing that you can do to protect your company is to implement internal controls. So yung mga sinabi niyong examples kanina, which is your purchase orders, two-step verification, backup files, those are examples of your internal controls. So you can protect your company by implementing these internal controls. Now we have two types of internal controls. You have your physical access controls and you have your logical controls. Okay. Dito muna tayo sa logical controls since na-mention na kanina ni Sir Michael, no? Yung two steps verification. Yung logical controls, guys, is you giving access to the system. Meaning all of the data, all of the informations in your system, you are giving access. So, ano yung mga controls in place doon? An example would be your authentication and your authorization. So, start tayo. For example, there is a new hire. Siyempre, pag new hire, wala pa siyang access sa system. So, nagre-request ng username, ng password, no? Dina-download yung mga OTP, no? For that user, for that new hire to have access to the system. And before access can be granted, dapat lahat yon approved. I don't know if For example, kayo guys, pag nagre-request kayo ng access to a particular application, anong process po ninyo? Anyone? Or for example, meron kayong new hire, kayo yung manager, ano yung process ninyo to request access for that individual? Anyone would want to share that process na ginagawa sa company nila? Temporary access. Paano po yan, Sir Michael? Anong process natin doon?
Basically yung yung temporary access, very limited lang yung mga na-access niya. So mga essentials lang yung mga kaya niyang gawin and yung mga features. Let's say example dun sa G Drive namin, sa Gmail, ang na-access niya lang doon is yung folder na kung saan yung kunwari ako yung may-ari ng folder. Yun lang ang na-access niya, yung kung ano lang yung na-assign kong folder sa shinare ko sa kanya. But then yung buong database ng company, whether or not ang purpose niya is pangkabuuan ng company, hindi niya nakikita, hindi niya na-access. So, yeah, ganun lang.
Pero paano nire-request?
Doon sa namin, sa tech team namin, gumagawa sila ng parang
Ticket.
email, not necessarily ticket. Kasi naman kami, SME lang naman kami, hindi naman namin kailangan ng ticket to raise. Basta yung nilalagay lang, kunyari yung ID kasi usually is yung email address. Ang nilalagay lang nilang email address is let's say intern1 at ganun. Hindi niya nilalagay yung parang name namin. And the domain. So para kapag merong mga essential na emails externally, maintindihan ng mga receiver na parang intern email lang to, ganyan. Something that will lower the risk nung pag-set out ng mga emails niya. So,
understand.
Yeah, ganun lang.
Okay. Yeah, that's a very good control. No, so parang limited lang yung logical access na meron yung individual based dun sa request. So, sinasabi ni Sir Michael is that, for example, dun sa group or dun sa mailing list nila, so very limited lang. So that's good. That's a very good control. So yun yung logical control, guys. Access sa files, access sa system, no? And always take note, now when we are talking about access, it's a need to know basis. No, not want to know. What do you mean po by need basis? So, kaya na sinabi ni Sir Michael, say for example, it's just an intern. No? Ano lang talaga yung access or yung information na dapat malaman ng intern on her level or his or her level. Yun lang yung ibibigay natin. That's how it means. Okay? Need to know basis lang palagi. Hindi pwedeng ibibigay natin lahat. Hindi naman niya kailangan to perform his or her task. Okay? That's your logical control. Logical, we are talking about your access. Now, let's go to your physical control. Guys, remember yung example natin last week with regards to your how you access the premise, no? How you are able to go inside the building. Those are examples of your physical access. No, how you have access to the building, how do you have access to the server room, how do you have access to your computers, no? Usually, ang ginagamit natin dito, mga biometrics, cue cards, and whatnot. Okay? So those are your example of your physical access. Now, you also have your, and guys, remember, si Kuya Security Guard, no? It's an example of a physical access. No? Before ka makapasok sa building, no? Siya yung control na nandun to control who are going inside and outside the building. Okay? Now, your environmental controls are, an example is, meron kang, yung mga, to ensure that the risk of any environmental issues, no, on a physical control basis is nandoon. A good example is your mga fire exits, yung mga water sprinklers, no, yung fire extinguishers, lahat yon are part of your environmental controls. Another thing is that before you put up the building, check mo muna if it's within the um, fault line and whatnot. Those are examples of your environmental controls. Okay, those are examples of your physical controls. Okay, so malinaw guys ha, yung physical controls and your logical controls. The difference between these two internal controls. Okay. So again, another example of your physical control, yung mga turnstile. Before ka pumasok, may turnstile. Before ka makapasok sa server room, meron dapat, you should be able to have a card that is accessible to that room or something like that. So that's the difference of your physical controls and your logical controls. Okay, I think we have a few more slides before we go on to our MCQs. But let's take a quick 15-minute break and then let's come back. Let's continue our discussion on controls. Konting-konti na lang to, and then we'll proceed with our MCQs. Okay, so let's come back after 15 minutes. Thank you guys. Talk to you later. Okay, guys, let me know if you guys are back. Pa-thumbs up na lang sa ating chat. Okay, Sir Jane is here. Let's see. Miss Janie, Sir Michael, and Miss Via. Okay. Summer pa rin po ba dyan sa inyo? Mainit po ba?
Mainit pa, ma'am.
Mainit pa po. Sobra. So, so summer. Kailan mag-end yung summer po ninyo? Mas mainit pa ba kaysa sa Pinas? Sobra. Ah. Opo. Ay, nako. Okay, I think we can start now para ma-cover natin lahat yung ating MCQs later on. So, again, these are your two types of your internal controls. Now, let's move into this one. This is very, very important because this is how you input, process, and output your data in your information system. Okay? So, paano mo siya ini-input yung mga... Remember guys, balik tayo dun sa SOX discussion natin wherein yung financial statement natin, it's connected to your controls. So again, lahat ng ini-input nating data here, how we process your data, and what are those output, lahat yon pumapasok sa financial statement nyo. Okay, that's why companies and organizations have controls in place, no, to ensure na lahat ng ini-input, lahat ng pinaprocess, lahat ng output nyo, there is a control in place. So, parang pulis natin yung control kasi guys. Kaya dapat lahat ng galaw within the organization, there is a control. Okay, now let's move on to discussing one of them. Discussing each one of them. The first one is your input. So, ano yung mga controls in place when we are inputting data in our information system? Okay, pag nag-i-input tayo, for example, yung ginagawa ni Miss Janie, which is recording of your invoices. Paano siya nagre-record ng invoice? That's your input. Paano mo nire-record yung lahat ng data that is in connection to your invoices? Okay? One control is that you have your pre-formatting. Okay? So, guys, paki-take note, guys. Hindi ko na ako naglagay ng hindi na ako nagbigay ng definition dito, but I want you to take note of the examples that we have. Okay? What are pre-formatting? So, hold on. Okay. So, yung pre-formatting is, for example, when you are in your system, okay, say for example, si Miss Janie, nag-input siya ng information for the invoice, we have a pre-formatted screen. Meaning, lahat ng field doon, meron siyang required, paano ba sabihin? Meron siyang required format. Okay. For example, your birth date or your date of transaction na lang. Your date of transaction. Ang format niya is DDMMYYYY. Okay? So, yun yung pre-format niya. Pag nag-input ka doon ng invalid pre-format, hindi niya i-accept. Okay? Yun yung silbi ng input control, guys. We are making sure that whatever data that we are inputting in the system is correct. Therefore, before mo pa siya maipasok sa system, meron ka ng control, no? Or meron ka ng process in place to control those informations or data that you are inputting. Okay? So say for example, you are inputting bank details. Diba? May certain number of bank details doon. Nakalagay XXXX dash XXXX. So, your system can already identify that whatever you're inputting is correct or incorrect based dun sa pre-formatting field mo. Okay? So, yun po yung example ng free formatting. I suggest you write the example there as date. Okay? Your date, or say for example, your zip code. No? Yung may mga definite number of required characters. Okay? That's your free formatting. Now, the second one is your edit checks input control. Okay? So paano naman po yung ating edit check? Usually, guys, yung edit check, it is also called your validation check. Okay? So your edit checks or your validation checks is used to ensure that you meet the standards and the requirements. Okay? So say for example, pag nag-i-input ng journal entry or ng invoice, di ba may mga field na required? Okay? May mga field na required. Tapos, usually may nakalagay na apostrophe, di ba? May nakalagay na apostrophe yun sa mga required fields. Now, if you are trying to input data, tapos nakita ng system na hindi mo nag-conduct yung system ng edit checks, meaning it tried to look into all of the informations that you have provided and hindi mo na-provide lahat. That's an example of your edit checks or your validation checks. It is trying to validate all of the informations that you have provided. Okay? Sometimes if it does not meet the requirements, okay, or the required data is missing, or the entered data is not formatted correctly. So lahat yun, vina-validate ng system before niya i-go yung mga informations na nilagay. Okay? That's your edit check. Okay. Next is your limit checks. Okay? Yung limit checks naman, guys, as the term suggests, no? For example, naglalagay tayo ng it does not exceed a predetermined value as para siyang range check, limits check, or your range check. Okay, it does not exceed a predetermined value. So, say for example, ina-accept lang niya is up to 5 or up to 10. Pag naglagay ka ng 11, magkakaroon ng error. Hindi niya ipaprocess. Hindi niya tatanggapin yung in-input mo. Okay? Say for example, if you are doing invoices, merong number of materials or transactions ka lang na pwedeng i-input dun sa form. Okay? Pag sumobra ka dun, magkakaroon ng error. Okay? That's your limit check. Meron kang predetermined value na sinusunod. Pag lumagpas ka sa predetermined value na yon, it will not allow you to input that data in the system. Okay, malinaw po. Next one. Meron tayong natawag na check digits. Okay? Yung check digits, guys, merong particular portion dun sa data na in-input mo na i-check niya. A good example here is yung barcode, no? Yung barcode, may ginagawa yung computation or code reading, no, on those. Another good example would be your ATM cards. Say for example, nagtatransact ka online. Tapos ilalagay mo yung bank details mo. Usually, It will identify if it's a MasterCard or a Visa card based on the first 4 digits. Yan yung natawag natin na check digits. It's a form of an input control that checks whether the data that you are inputting is correct by looking into several or looking into a specific portion of that data. Yun yung check digits natin. Okay? So that's your check digits. So guys, lahat na to, tong 4 na to, these are all real time. No, real time po siya. So pag ini-input mo na siya, agad na ma-identify ng system na may error. Okay? Yung pre-formatting, usually namumula yung field, 'di ba? For example, dun sa date. No? Yung date may limit check 'yon. Yung month mo hanggang 12 lang. Pag ilalagay mo yung 42 sa days, magre-red siya or it will indicate an error. Kasi nga may predetermined value lang 'yon. So usually ganun yung ating mga real-time input controls. Real-time po siya. Na-identify na agad if may mali. Okay? Now, you have your management released. You have your record count. You have your financial total and your hash total. Etong 4 naman to, these are batch. Batch basis po siya. Meaning, na-identify mo lang na may mali dun sa input after these are done. So, yung management release, usually ang nangyayari, mayroon kang listahan, tapos i-fill out mo lahat yon. Tapos, pag i-click mo na yung save or process, dun ma-identify yung error. So, hindi niya i-allow na mai-input lahat yon. Magkakaroon siya ng error. Another thing is your record count. Pag mali yung record count mo, hindi niya i-input. Okay, so usually mga 10 lang yung gusto niya. Pag hindi pa 10 or lumagpas ng 10, hindi niya i-input yung data sa system. You also have your financial total. Yung record count, ang binibilang mo per row. Yung financial total, usually you sum up the amounts. And of course, you have your hash total. Your hash total is almost the same with your financial total. Only that, yung hash total, ang ina-add niya, yung mga bagay-bagay na dapat hindi ina-add. For example, employee ID. Diba? Ba't mo i-add yung employee ID? Parang it does not make sense. Pero yun yung ginagamit ng system to check if the input data is correct. That's your hash total. Okay? Later on, you will see in our MCQs, yung mga examples and paano yung atake ng topic na to when it comes to questions. Okay, so that's your input. We have other types of input controls in place, but these are just the basics. Now you also have your process. Okay, so okay na yung na-input. Okay, na-input mo na siya sa system. But there's also another control in place ulit. Okay, so the system, before it process, before niya i-process yung mga data na na-input mo, it will perform the following. It might perform the following. Limit checks. Okay. For example, again, the same concept ng limit checks dito. For example, hindi niya i-process kung yung amount ng mga invoice is more than 100,000. Parang ganon. Okay. Again, total count. Pag kulang, yung i-process niya, hindi niya i-process. Okay. You have your validation. Again, it's the same thing with your edit. You validate all of the transactions first that you have inputted before you can process it. Okay, that's your validation. Completeness. Are all the data for processing is complete? Okay. You have your arithmetic controls, meaning you do computations. Tama ba yung computations before it process? Okay.
You have your sequence check. Your sequence check, an example of this one is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Tuloy-tuloy ba siya? Kompleto ba siya? I-check niya kasi yung sequence. Okay? Before niya i-go yung process. We have run-to-run control total. Meaning, before niya i-run, i-check niya muna yung previously run niya. So say for example, the first run is from 1 to 10. Okay? So ang susunod na run should be 11 to 20. Pero before niya i-run yung 11 to 20 or i-process yung 11 to 20, gusto niyang i-double check if tama ba na mag-start siya sa 11. Kaya babalik siya dun sa first run to ensure na ang huling number is 10. That's your run-to-run control total. You check the previous run to ensure that the current run that you are processing is correct. You have your key integrity. Okay, I will discuss this one further, yung ating key integrity. And then, I think that's it for your process. Okay. Now, after mo na process, meron kang output control. Guys, the thing with output control is, these are all reports. At the end of the day, meron kang report. It's either an audit trail or a log. Okay, output nga, di ba? So, anong meron ka at the end? Yun yung control mo. Meron ka dapat documentation of what you input and what you process. Therefore, your output controls are usually your audit trails, error listing report, or your results report. Okay? Madali lang yung output. No? Laging isipin kung parang may nakuha ka bang report at the end of the day, that's already an example of your output control. Later on, sa ating MCQs, we have a lot of examples for the input and the process. Okay. Now, let's proceed to your CAATs or your computer-assisted audit techniques. Okay. Ano na naman po itong CAATs? Okay. Guys, remember, yung mga auditors, usually, big data or a huge number of information ang ino-audit nila. Okay? So, sabi natin na sa samples. But again, before ka mag-sample, meron tayong natawag na population or lahat ng mga samples natin during the period. Now, gusto ni auditor na as much as possible, i-understand lahat ng samples na yon. And pag gagawin to ng auditors manually, nako guys, hindi kasya yung 6 months to perform the audit. It will take years for them to do it. That's why, no, they are using tools, which we call your computer-assisted audit techniques. So this tool facilitates them to make search from the irregularities for the given data. Lalong-lalo na guys, dahil, for example, yung mga banks, napakadaming transactions niyan. Hindi yan isa-isahin ng auditor. Kaya nga gumagamit sila ng mga CAATs to make their life easier. Okay? So what are this example of your CAATs? The first one is your processing test data. Okay? So these are not just tools. At the same time, these are also procedures. Okay? Your processing your test data is that meron kang dummy account. Dummy transactions. Okay? You have a dummy transactions. And this dummy transactions, you use, syempre, ikaw na yung naggagawa ng sarili mong transaction. Alam mo kung ano yung mali doon. Okay? Alam mo kung ano yung tama. Alam mo pag iraran mo yung dummy transactions mo, alam mo yung magiging results. Okay? That's your test data or your dummy transactions. Okay? So, gumawa-gawa ka ng sarili mong transaction. Ngayon, iraran mo yon sa system ng client. Okay? Say, for example, gagawa tayo ng fictitious or dummy invoice. Tapos, iraran natin yon dun sa system na ginagamit ni Miss Janie. Okay? Our expectation is that the system will identify the error. Okay? Kasi guys, pag hindi na-identify ng system yung error na ina-expect natin, then something is wrong with the system of the client or the organization. Okay? That makes sense? So, inote natin dito, for processing test data, we are using dummy transactions or test data, and we are running it in the client's system. So this is client system plus your test data. Okay? Now, we also have what we call your parallel simulation. Okay, ano na naman po yung parallel simulation? So, tatlo yung components dito, guys. Okay, tatlo yung components sa ating parallel simulation. Kukuha tayo ng real transaction from the client. Okay, for example, an invoice from the client. Tapos, iraran natin yung invoice na yon sa sarili nating system. Usually, auditors have their own tools or systems they use. So, iraran natin yung invoice na yon sa sariling system natin. Okay? Our expectation is that kung ano yung result kung ano yung naging result ng invoice na yon from the system of the client should be the same with the results that we run in our system. Okay, so tatlo yung component. The first one, the client system. The second one, the auditor system. Number 3 is your real transaction details. Okay, so hindi na dummy transactions. Real transaction na talaga yung kinuha nating sample. Okay, kaya siya dinawag na parallel simulation. Iraran mo siya both system. Okay? Now you have your general audit software or your GAS. Your GAS, usually these are tools used by auditors to analyze data. Okay, these are used to analyze data. Maraming functions yung general audit software actually. But overall, iba-iba to. Iba-iba yung functionality niya at the same time. Iba-iba yung na-provide niyang informations. And then your data extraction, this is a procedure. Nag-extract tayo ng data from the client's system. Okay? And then yun yung ginagamit natin na sample. Ito yung pinaka-basic. Ito yung pinaka-basic, guys. We have your spreadsheet analysis. Spreadsheet analysis, gumagamit tayo ng Excel file. Okay? Nag-VLOOKUP tayo, tumitingin tayo ng duplicates, VLOOKUP, ano pa ba? Pivot table to understand the data. Okay? You also have what you call your integrated test facility. Okay? Yung integrated test facility, guys, ang ginagawa natin dito is that we create a fictitious entity in the client's system and process transactions. So, usually, hindi to masyadong ginagawa, no? Yung integrated test facility na nagra-run tayo ng sarili nating transactions doon sa live system ng client. Okay? Usually, hindi siya masyadong ginagawa. Okay? So, gumagawa tayo ng mga test transactions and then nirarun natin siya sa normal production. Usually, hindi natin siya ginagawa kasi baka malagdag yung mga ginagawa nating test transactions dun sa legit transactions ng company. And then we have your embedded audit module. Ito yung pinakamahirap sa lahat and the most expensive. Kasi ito, guys, naglalagay tayo ng program. Program na ha. Naglalagay tayo ng program within the system. So parang minomonitor natin yung system, which is hindi masyadong ginagawa kasi nga mahal. At the same time, this is a very tedious procedure. Itong embedded audit module. Nag-embed tayo ng applications, ng programs sa system ng client. And that's how we audit the system. Usually, hindi to ginagawa. Okay? So, these are your computer-assisted audit techniques. Usually, ang atake lang dito sa mga questions, you just identify what type of CAAT is used. Okay? Ito, hindi ko na ito i-discuss kasi i-discuss to next week. Alam niyo na to, firewall. Okay, last one for our discussion. So we have your documenting and assessing controls. So meron ka ditong flowchart, guys. Ito yung sinasabi ko sa inyo last week na all of your controls should be documented. So usually, how we document controls. Ito hindi to audit Ito sa management to. In the management perspective. So, a flow chart is a type of a diagram that represents the workflow or the process. It shows two common process items in the flow. You have your processing and your decision. So the order, the sequence of the various activities is shown by arrows and they are used to design, analyze, document, and manage processes. So I know this is not the first time you're going to be able to see this. So this is an example of a flow chart. How does the control works? So start siya dito. Ang gagawin, you'll gather evidence, ilalagay mo yung evidence dun sa form, and then you will validate the evidence, parang ganon. Okay? Question, guys, in our chat box. Why do you think it's very important, no, to document our controls? Anyone? Why do you think it's very important to document controls? Again, there is no right or wrong answer here. It depends on how you rationalize your answer. Anyone? Any idea? Why are we documenting our controls? If it's not documented, then it's not existing. Yes, that's correct. Okay. What else? Anong silbi ng documentation na to? For example, okay, Miss Cheney answered to have a standard procedure. Yes, that's correct. Because, again, we are establishing a control. Thus, we wanted our people to understand how the control should be done. Take note, how it should be done. Okay? Nagbibigay tayo ng standard. Dapat ganito mo gawin. Dapat tinatapos mo within this period or something like that. Okay, that's correct. Ano pa? Ano pang silbi ng documentation of these controls? What else? Lower the inherent risk. Lower the inherent risk. Okay, this one should be on the control. No, parang hindi po related, Sir Michael, because this is, pag sinasabi po nating documenting, I'm not talking about the audit po hindi po to audit perspective. Ito, sa management tayo. Diba? For example, echo, stop. So, parang ang point po is that, ano ba? So, for example, ikaw, Sir Michael, yung process na ginagawa mo, yung sabi mo kanina that you guys are sending those POs, okay? Ano yung process? Ano yung procedures na ginagawa ninyo on how you communicate your POs, no? How do you accept payments and whatnot. So, for example, one of the benefits of having or documenting your controls, having a policy document, no? Usually, policy document ang tawag natin dito. Is that, for example, nag-resign si Sir Michael or na-promote si Sir Michael. So, whatever task you are doing, no? Syempre, may transition. May transition dun sa papalit sa'yo. But, if they will be reviewing this documentation or this policy document or this standard procedure, they will have an idea on how they should do the work. That's one of the benefits of having this policy documents or control documents. So your control documents is really explaining or really showing how the process work and how it should be done. Usually, yung mga flowchart, medyo kulang kasi to. Naka-indicate din dito kung sino yung gagawa. Anong department or anong position, anong role. Okay? Yun po yung documenting and assessing controls. Again, this is not in the point of view of audit. This is in the point of view of the management. Remember, in our SOX 302, it's the responsibility, no, 404, it's the responsibility of the management to have or to implement controls, internal controls. Hindi pwedeng nagsalita lang si CEO, dapat ito yung gawin ninyo. Ito yung start, ito yung second process, blah, 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 blah. That should be documented so that everyone will know what to do. Everyone will have an idea what the standard procedure is. Okay? Yun yung gusto nating sabihin dito sa documenting and assessing control. At the same time, no, one of the benefits of having a flow chart as well is that, remember guys, in our control process, you monitor or you do a review of all the controls that you have implemented. So how are you going to review your controls? Go back to your flow chart. Sa tingin nyo ba, pwede nating improve tong process A or process A or process B? Parang ganon. Okay? So that's the end of our discussion for internal controls. Again, just a recap. We have discussed risk assessment. We have discussed controls, implementing controls. What are the different types of controls? We have discussed audit, which is your internal audit, external audit. What are the procedures done during an audit cycle? What are the characteristics of your audit evidence? What are the components of your audit? At the same time, we've also discussed what are the different types of controls that you can do to protect your company as a whole. Okay. So I think we can now proceed to our MCQs unless guys you have any other question. Okay, again guys, I will need your cooperation, okay, in our MCQs. It's good to practice, okay? Again, lagi ko sinasabi, we need to practice answering. So please, since konti lang naman tayo dito, I expect everyone to participate. Okay? So first question tayo. Okay, sa processing, sa input, process, and output agad tayo guys. So processing controls provide reasonable assurance that only approved data are processed. Which of the following is not a processing control? Okay, Sir Michael answered letter D. Again, bantayan nyo guys yung question. Not a processing control. How about the rest? Any answer? What's your answer, guys? Is it A, run-to-run totals, B, sequence check, C, completeness checks, or D, error check? If error report is not a processing control, what type of control is this one? What type of control? Tatlo lang yung option natin. Input, processing, or output. Sabi ni Miss Jenny, input. So error report is an input control. How about Sir Michael? What's letter D po? If this is not a processing control, what type of control is error report? Okay, guys, remember, it's a report. Report is always an output control. Okay, huwag niyong kakalimutan, guys. Report, any listing. Okay? It's all an output control. Okay? So you guys are correct. It's letter D. A to C are all examples of your processing control. Okay, good job. Let's proceed to our second question. In entering the billing address for a new client in ML Company's computerized database, a clerk erroneously entered a non-existent zip code. As a result, the first month's bill mailed to the new client was returned to ML Company. Which of the following would most likely have led to the discovery of the error at the time of entry into ML's computerized database? So, ang problema, guys, mali yung nalagay na zip code. Walang input control na naka-implement. Therefore, the question is, ano dapat yung control na na-implement para na-discover yung mga ganitong error, which is erroneously entering a non-existent zip code. This is very easy. Okay. Miss Jamie answered letter B, which is validity text. Sir Michael answered letter C, parity test. Sir Jean answered letter B. Okay. Guys, the correct answer is letter B, validity. Okay. We are testing. We have a control in place to check if the data that you have inputted is valid or not. Okay. It's validity text. See, guys, hindi pare-parehas yung sinasabi ng question. It can be a validity check or validity text. Okay? That's why you need always to practice answering para makita natin lahat tong mga terminologies na to. Okay? So, for the second question, the correct answer is letter B. Okay, good job, guys. Now, we have this one. The data entry staff of Natural Manufacturing Incorporated has the responsibility for converting all of the plant's shipping information to computerized record. The information flow begins when the shipping department sends a copy to a shipping order to the data entry staff and blah, blah, blah. So it's describing the process. So what's the most effective way to visualize and understand this set of activities would be through a what? This is very easy. Okay, I see Sir Michael answered letter D, document flow chart. How about the rest? Okay, Sir Dreen answered program flow chart. Miss Janie also answered letter D, document flow chart. Guys, the correct answer is document flow chart. Okay, see guys. Okay, quick tip. Ako, ugali ko to. Na pag na-excite ako, yun na agad yung sagot ko. Nakita ko na yung flow chart, yun na yun agad. Okay, don't do that. Okay, even though you know it's the correct answer, even though if you think this is the correct answer, do not ever skip reading the rest of the options. Okay? May ganun tayong di ba? Pag na-excite tayo, tama to, flowchart. Parang ganun. But you see, there are two flowcharts here. You have your program flowchart and your document flowchart. Okay? Program flowchart, usually guys, parang walang ganitong terminology. Okay? So, be very, very cautious. Okay? So, tip number 1, do not get excited. Read all the options. Okay? That's our tip number 1 when answering our MCQs. Next one. This is very easy. Output controls provide assurance that processing is complete. Which of the following control is not an output control? Guys, while answering. Tip number 2, huwag kayong malilin lang sa mga ganito. Okay? Dinedescribe mo yung output control. Pero hindi yun yung tinatanong niya. Okay? So, usually, na-excite tayo. First sentence lang yung binasa natin. Nako, ang bilis nating sumagot. Yung output control yung sinagot natin, which is incorrect. Because the question is, always read the question, which of the following controls is not, and circle the not an output control. Okay, I see Sir Michael answered letter A. Okay. Si Sir Drin. Hindi. Okay. Sir Michael, Miss Janie, and Sir Drin answered letter A. So letter A, it's password protection of document. Okay. So you guys are incorrect. Okay. Definitely it's not C and D. Okay. It's letter B. Reasonableness check is an example of an input control. Uy, wala po tayong diniscuss na reasonableness check, Miss Cristel. Okay. That's the reason, no, that we need to, one sec, guys. That's why we need to know all of the terminologies. Reasonableness check is also another terminology for validation check. Diba? Nakakalin lang, guys. Guys, tignan nyo na lang. It's a check. Okay? And then, bakit po yung letter A, password protection of document? Guys, your document is already an output. And you are putting a control to make sure that this document cannot be accessed by anyone. Therefore, it's an example of your output control. Okay? Kahit anong report, document, listing, lahat yan, output control. Okay? Take note nyo lang. Again, reasonableness check is an example of a validation check or your edit check. Pare-parehas lang po yan. Okay? Take note nyo yan. At least we have a new terminology. We have your reasonableness check. Okay, next question. Which of the following provides protection from unauthorized use of your database? Which of the following provides protection on unauthorized use of your database? Okay, this one, it's about logical access. Logical access. Logical, guys, ha? I see Janie answered letter B, data encryption. Okay. So we're talking about an authorized use of your database or an example of your logical access controls. Is it A, storing your data center in a secured area? Letter B, data encryption. Letter C, input entry screens with validity check. Letter D, file transfer protocol. Okay, I see you guys answered letter B. What about letter A? Okay, what type of control is this one, guys? Storing the data center in a secured area. What type of control? Okay, Miss Janie answered physical. That's correct. Okay, let's go to letter C. Input entry screen with validity check. What type of control is this? Input entry screens with validity check. What type of control? Input control. Yes, that's correct. File transfer protocol. What type of control is this? File transfer protocol. I see input. Okay, this is an output control because you are transferring your files. This is one way of protecting your file or your output. Therefore, the correct answer is your data encryption. Again, we're talking about unauthorized use, meaning access. Okay, good job, guys. So that's how you analyze the questions, okay? Okay, number 27, very easy. Which edit checks in a computerized accounting system is what? Letter A, are easier to install after a system is operational. Letter B, should be performed immediately prior to output distribution. Letter C, should be performed on transaction prior to updating a master file. Or letter D, are preventive controls. What do you think? Edit checks. This is an example of your input control. See, guys, it's not definitions. That's why I do not encourage you guys to memorize definitions. You just need to know the concept. Okay? Analyze the options. Okay, Miss Janie answered letter C. Drin and Sir Michael also answered letter C. And you guys are correct. O, diba? Prior, before ka mag-edit ng kahit ano, especially a master file, you should have your edit check. You should validate all of the data that you are trying to input. Okay? Guys, paki-take note yung last sentence in our answer box. The edit check prevents the phenomenon of garbage in, garbage out. Meaning, kung basura yung nilagay mong data in your system, don't expect anything that would be very useful at the end of the day. Okay? Pag mali-mali yung nilagay mong data, don't expect na tama yung maiproprocess mo. That's why we call it garbage in and your garbage out. Good job! Diba guys? Ang dali. Okay. Ito, i-discuss natin next week. So, okay. This one. Companies, ito parang nangyayari to talaga in real life. So, I know you guys can answer this. A company's management is concerned about computer data eavesdropping and wants to maintain confidentiality of its information that is transmitted. Transmission of data. The company should utilize what? A, data encryption. B, password codes. C, dial back system. Or D, message acknowledgement procedure. We want to maintain confidentiality of transmitting of data, meaning if we want to move our data from one place to another, or a good example is sending of your emails, no? Okay, I see letter B with Janie and Michael. Okay, you guys are incorrect. Okay, the correct answer is your data encryption. Guys, remember, when you are transmitting your data, okay, especially a good example would be your emails. It's good that you encrypt your emails. Okay. So that's your data encryption. Take note of it. Okay. We wanted to make sure the confidentiality of your data. Password codes. Kasi transmitting of data. Ang worry natin sa password codes is that pag nagtra-transmit ka ng data, you also need to communicate the password. Or else, hindi ma-decrypt or ma-open yung message. So there's still a risk there, higher risk compared to data encryption. Okay, balik tayo sa ating input-output process controls. So which input control would be most effective? This is very easy to mitigate risks relating to large dollar invoices without management approval. Guys, this is very, very easy. The key word here is your large dollar invoices. Okay, Sir Drin, Sir Michael answered letter D, limit check. How about Miss Janie? Miss Janie answered letter A. Okay, guys, remember our example on check digits. It's your, for example, social security numbers, credit card numbers, barcodes. But when we're talking about, limitations, as nasabi kasi dito, minimitigate natin yung risk na makapagpasa ka ng invoice of large amounts na walang management approvals. So the correct answer here is letter D. So ang control is like, the usual is that pag less than 100,000, walang approval yung invoice. Pwede mo na siyang i-process. Pero, for example, umabot na ng 500,000, kailangan na ng manager's approval. Parang ganun. So you cannot process invoices which are not within the limit. Kaya meron tayong natawag na limit check. Kasi mas material yung amount pag malaki na yung amount ng mga invoices. The higher the amount, the must need ng approval. Okay? Number 36, remember that it's an example of a limit check. Guys are doing great. Now, next. Ito, hindi natin ito answerin. Okay, this one. Audit procedures may include a variety of computerized programs and accuracy tests to confirm that the data processed by computer application posed to the correct general ledger. These procedures referred to as what? This is very easy, guys. Come on. Hindi pwede magkamali kayo dito. Usually, yung sagot nasa question na din. What audit procedures are this? I mean, what controls are this? Audit procedures may include a variety of computerized programs and accuracy tests to confirm that the data processed by computer application posed to the correct general ledger. These procedures are referred to as, I see Ms. Janie answered letter B, processing controls. Sir Michael answered letter C, output control. Sir Drin answered letter B, which is the correct answer. Okay? Hindi po siya output kasi nandun pa lang tayo sa pag-process. Process of posting to the general ledger. So wala po tayo sa output. So this is still your processing control. Okay, these are the procedures before the data can be posted to the general ledger, before it allows. No? So that's your processing control. It's letter B. Okay? Oh, this is very easy. Lock doors, security system, ID badge, passwords are similar controls are designed to what? This is very easy, guys. Okay, I see letter A from Ms. Janie and Sir Michael, which is to safeguard the firm's asset, also with Sir Drin's answer. And this is an easy one, and that's correct. Okay, again, it's your responsibility as part of the management to protect your company. And protecting your company means everything, your assets, the premises, the informations, the data, all of those. Okay? Okay, let's now move on. Okay, this is very easy. Okay, which of the following are controls that would limit access to physical hardware. Guys, take note, physical hardware. We're talking about physical control here. Okay, so which are the following controls that would limit access to physical hardware? 1, the data center is placed in a location away from public access. 2, an alarm system is set up in the computer room, including motion detectors. 3, the data center is located on the 3rd floor of the building. Number 4, all computer equipment is attached to surge protectors. Guys, look at the question. Limit access. We're talking about access to your physical hardware, which is an example of a physical control. Okay. Sir Michael answered letter D, all of them. Be very careful with the question, guys. It says limit access. Sir Drin answered letter C, 1 and 3. We're talking about access. Let's wait for Miss Janie. Siguro nag-a-analyze pa siya. Since magkaiba ng sagot si Sir Drin and okay. Miss Janie also answered letter D, all of them. Okay. Now, let's try to go in one by one. The data center is placed in a location away from easy public access. That's a check. Because again, our goal here is to limit access. That's a check. Okay. Number 2, an alarm system is set up in the computer room, including motion detectors. Guys, I have a question here. Why are we putting motion detectors? To what? What do you think is the purpose of that motion detector? Prevent access. Definitely. Okay, that's correct. So we will able to identify if there is someone in the computer room or whatnot, right? So number 2, it's a check. Number 3, the data center is located in the 3rd floor of the office building. I have a question. How would you limit access by putting your data center in the 3rd floor? Since Mr. Michael and actually all of you answered 3 because D and C includes 3. Anyone? How would you limit access if the data center is located in the 3rd floor? It is okay if it is located in one designated location. Yes, that's correct. But kung nasa 4th floor ba yan? Kung nasa 3rd floor ba yan, am I limiting the people to have access on it? So what's the difference if pag nilagay ko siya sa 4th floor? Okay? I think this would be a correct answer if you're saying that the data center is located on the 3rd floor and only limited individuals have access to that floor, then number 3 would be included in our answer. But this is incorrect. It does not limit access because I can still go to the 3rd floor. Okay? What's the difference kung nasa ground floor man siya or 2nd floor? Okay? Putting it in one location does not limit access. Guys, tignan nyo yung number 1. You're putting it in a location away from easy public access. You see, it's the difference of 1 and 3. Both of them are talking about data center. But one is specifically saying that we are putting this one in a location away from everyone's access. Okay? That's the difference of 1 and 3. That's why 3 is incorrect. Okay? So, X mark na tayo sa 3. So, ang tamang sagot is letter B. But I want to go to number 4. So all computer equipments are attached to surge protectors. Anyone, what is a surge protector? Any idea what a surge protector is? Okay, that's correct. To prevent damages. So for example, ang mangyayari kasi, guys, pag nawala yung kuryente, no, biglang nawala yung kuryente, mamamatay yung machine. Okay, so for example, yung mga high-end machine na ginagamit natin sa data center. Pag nawala yung kuryente, mawawala ng power yung machine. Pag biglang bumalik yung kuryente, aandar ulit. Remember yung masasabi ng parents natin na parang, tanggalin nyo kasi pag nawala yung kuryente, tinatanggal agad yung saksakan ng ref, ng TV, kasi pag biglang umandar, usually nabibigla yung machine, nasisira. Okay? So tama yung sinabi ni Sir AVR. Yes, I think so, AVR. Not sure of the correct terminology, but ganun yung concept niya. So tama yung sinasabi ni Sir Michael na it prevents damages. Because yung surge protector kasi, it protects the device. So very high voltage siya na pag nawala yung kuryente, merong pa ring power. No, may power pa rin na available to properly shut down yung machine. Okay? That's what surge protector is. So my question is, does it limit access to the computer equipment? Does it limit your access? No. So definitely 4 and 3 are not controls that would limit the access. Guys, bantayan niyo yung question. Kasi usually, ang isipin nyo, the question is not your enemy in the exam. But the question is your guide. It's just giving you instruction on what you should find. So sinasabi lang niya dito, would limit access, encircle limit access. Physical hardware, encircle that. Those are just your key points to guide you to the correct answer. Okay, so again, number 41, the correct answer, it's letter B. Okay, guys, ganun palagi yung atake natin, okay? Now, let's move on to our next question. Okay, wag to. Next week to. But ito. Okay, number 49. Let's move here. Sam needs to send a check to a contract worker. Check. The check number is on the check. And the computer program adds a second number while printing the check to aid in tracking the transaction. This is an example of what? This is very tricky. Guys, you're talking about a check. Yung cheque. You are monitoring if the check and tracking the check if it went to the when you are printing it. So what type of control is this one? Is it A? Is it an input? B, processing? C, program access? Or letter B, an output control? Okay, I see letter B. Let's wait for Sir Drin. Kung anong sagot niya dito. Okay, all of you answer processing control. Okay, guys, a check, it's already an output. Okay? Gaya nung pag-monitor mo nung ating, ano ba yung example natin kanina for output? Wherein you are trying to, nakalimutan ko yung example natin. But the correct answer here is output control. Guys, you have already an output. You have a check. May check ka na. Okay? You are just monitoring. Okay? You are just adding a second number while printing the check. You are already printing your output. Okay, so this is an example of your output control. They include controls for validating processing results such as activity reports. So output controls regulate the distribution, disposal of printed output, including pre-numbered checks. Guys, always remember, ang isipin nyo pag output, tapos na yung process. Nakalagay ka na lang, na-process mo na yung sweldo ng contract worker. Nag-print ka na ng cheque. Okay, so that's an output control. You are no longer processing it, but you are already trying to monitor your output. Output mo is a check. Okay, so this one, the correct answer is your output control. Okay, take note of that, guys. Hold to. Ano ba na-click ko? Okay. So, heads up na lang for this one. Systems security controls. Okay, the correct answer is letter D. Include blocking physical access, protecting computer access from environmental effects. These are your environmental controls. And again, your logical controls. Mali tong letter A. Kasi even though it's a small company, you still need to protect it. Okay? So, A, B, and C, parang tingnan nyo na lang, parang it does not make sense, all of those answers. Okay, guys, this is your SOD na didiscuss ko kanina. The most critical aspect of separation of duties within a mainframe information system environment is between what? A, programmers and users, meaning the programmers cannot be the same as the users. Letter B, programmers and project leaders. Letter C, programmers and system analysts. Letter D, programmers or your computer operators. Wild guess, and then I'll discuss with you guys kung ano yung mga different individuals dito. Okay, Sir Michael answered letter B. Dren answered letter D. Okay, how about Miss Janie? Miss Janie answered letter B. The correct answer, guys, it's letter D. It's the programmers and your computer operators. Okay, okay. Guys, I want you to take note kung sino yung mga individuals dito. Your programmers is another terminology for developers. Paki-take note po. Your programmers is another terminology for developers. Your users usually are your customers, no? Kayo guys na gumagamit ng system, you guys are an example of your users. Okay? So definitely A is not the correct answer. Letter B, your programmers and project leaders. What are your project leaders? Say for example, balik tayo dun sa discussion natin a while ago in SOD, wherein si Sir Michael in his department wanted this program. Okay, wanted this application to be developed. He is then the project leader. Okay, siya yung nag-request nung project or nung siya nag-request nung application or nung program. That's the project leader. Okay? Usually, yung project leader, mga tester lang to. So, it's not critical. Okay? So, letter B is not the correct answer. Letter C, programmers and system analysts. Your system analyst is usually what we call your program designer. Okay? May designer tayo. Iba yung developer. Yung developer, siya lang yung gumagawa. Pero yung nagde-design, siya yung system analyst. Okay? Usually, the system analyst and the programmers is just the same. All of them have access in the development environment. So, walang critical SOD conflict dito. Now, let's go to your programmers and computer operators. Your computer operators usually are your administrators, your technical supports, those that have privileged access, those that can make changes in the production environment. Remember guys, yung highlight ng SOD natin is that developers should not have any access in the production environment. Therefore, the most critical aspect of segregation of duties for information system is your programmers or developers with your computer operators, your admin, or your implementer. Okay, malinaw po. So yung mga computer operators, ito yung may mga access sa production. Okay, so number 68, the correct answer, it's letter D. Guys, pa-take note yung mga definitions natin ng users, project leaders, system analysts, and your computer operators. Okay, so that's it. Next one. To data encryption. Okay, this is very easy. Dapat di kayo magkamali dito na this is really very easy. So procedures to limit physical access, guys, physical access to information system hardware include all of the following except, ayan, excite ka, akala mo physical access lang. So except pala. So which here is not an example of a physical access to hardwares. Very easy. It's at letter A, requiring swipe card access to restricted area. Letter B, requiring doable control of valuable asset. Letter C, employing security guards. Letter D, sending confirmations to satellite offices. This is very easy. Which is not a physical access? Which is not a physical access that which is not a control that limits physical access to hardware? We're talking about access here. Anyone? This is very easy. Letter C. Sir Drin answered letter D. How about Sir Michael? Sir Michael answered letter B. Naku, iba-iba na naman kayo, guys. Okay. Letter A definitely is not the correct answer because this is an example of a physical access to hardware. Kasi may cue card ka or swipe card to access. Okay. Requiring dual control of valuable asset. Okay. What do we mean by dual control of our... One sec, guys. Mag-water lang ako saglit. Okay. Requiring a dual control of valuable asset. I think a good example here is that if napanood nyo yung ano guys, yung Oppenheimer ba yun? Or yung mga movies na may nuclear thing, 'di ba? Minsan, or yung mga vault, mga ganon type of access sa mga vault. Usually, hindi isang tao lang ang pwedeng, kailangan 2 or more individuals ang nandoon, no, to access the hardware. So sometimes kailangan ng eye biometrics nung isa, tapos yung isa kailangan ng thumb mark, parang ganon. Those are examples of your dual control. So sometimes kailangan ng OTP or kailangan ng biometrics to access the asset. So definitely this is one way to limit physical access. Kasi meron kang standard or meron kang SNET, no, na dapat ito lang yung mga taong pwedeng maka-access doon. So letter B is not correct. So this is an example of a physical access that limit physical access. Yan, nag-iwas si Sir Michael ng sagot. Letter D na. Okay, letter C. Guys, kanino ba kasi nasabi si Manong security guard? He is an example of a physical access. Okay? Kasi hindi natin alam, nandun siya sa labas ng data center na room. No? Nagche-check siya. Meron siyang listahan kung sino lang pwedeng pumasok. Okay? That's an example of your the task of your manong security guard, or even in outside the premise, pagpasok mo pa lang sa building, di ba? And so letter D is the correct answer. So how do you even like limit access pag nagsasend ka lang ng confirmation sa satellite office? And what kind of information is this one? Right? So guys, tingnan niyo dito, last sentence on your answer box. Lock doors, security system, computer passwords, a requirement for dual control of valuable assets. These are all example of your physical access to limit hardware access. Okay. Ito. Okay, I think this is a good one. Online access controls are critical for the successful operation of today's computer systems. To assist in maintaining control over such access, many systems use tests that are maintained through an internal access control matrix. So, it's asking what is an internal access control matrix. I know I did not discuss this one, but remember, yung sinabi ko kanina, when you are giving access to someone, it's a need-to-know basis. Now, 1 minute to read all of the options and let me know what the correct answer is. Okay, so basically, you are trying to identify what an internal access control matrix is. Is it A, a list of controls in the online system and list of individuals authorized to change and adjust these controls along with the complete list of files in the system? Letter B, authorized user code numbers, passwords, list of files and programs, and a record of the type of access each user is entitled to have each file and program. Letter C, authorized user code numbers and passwords. Or letter D, a complete listing of system tests and the applicable programs. A good example here is yung example kanina ni Sir Michael with regards to the temporary employee. Okay, I see letter C from Sir Michael. Oh, B daw. Okay, letter B. Okay, Sir Drin answered letter C. And Miss Janie, letter B. Okay. So let's discuss B and C. Yung B daw, it is consists of all user codes. So lahat ng, so ang sinasabi dito, each user have their own code. Okay? They have their own passwords. The matrix guys is usually some sort of like a list wherein you identify connections from one field to another. So for example, kung ano yung mga list of files na itong mga individual na to or itong mga roles na to pwedeng maka-access, parang ganon. So letter B, ang sinasabi niya is it's a list of all user code numbers, passwords, the list of files and programs, and a record, the type of access each user is entitled to have. Meaning, lahat ng access, lahat ng record type na pwedeng ma-access ng isang user. Okay? Letter C, authorized code numbers and password. So, yung letter C, kulang siya. So, the correct answer here is letter B. Okay? Again, it's a need-to-know basis. And your internal access control matrix is a guide. It's actually it's a guide listing. So, for example, lahat ng managers, no, ito yung pwede nilang i-access. Lahat ng staff, lahat ng senior, ito lang yung folder na pwede nilang ma-access. So, yun yung silbi ng internal access control. It is giving a guide to employees kung ano lang dapat yung nabibigay sa kanilang access. Okay? Yun po yung mga silbi ng matrix. So, for this one, the correct answer is your letter B. Okay? Ito, hindi ito. Okay, this one. Okay, this is an example of a control, guys. During the annual review of internal controls of the HR department, an internal auditor may complete all of the following procedures to confirm the existence of adequate policies and procedures except what? Ano yung procedure na gagawin ng internal auditor to ensure na yung mga policies and procedures are existing? This is very easy. Okay? Is it letter A, review job descriptions? Letter B, inspect documents? Letter C, confirm proper segregation of duties? Or letter D, limit access to confidential data? This is very easy, guys. Okay, I see letter A from Sir Michael. Okay, how about Sir Jane and Miss... Okay, Miss Janie answered letter A. Okay, Sir Drain answered letter D. Okay. So, again, ano yung mga dapat tignan ng internal auditor? So, inspect documents? Yes, definitely. Confirm proper segregation of duties? Of course, yes. Limit access to confidential data? Definitely a yes. Okay? Because sometimes there are, again, personal informations or high sensitive informations in compliance with the data privacy na dapat HR lang yung nakakakita. And HR should have a control in place, okay, to ensure those data can only be accessed by appropriate individuals. So isang chine-check yan ng internal auditor. And it's not the okay. Existence, except limit. Evidence gathered by auditors is called primary evidence and may gathered. Limit access to confidential. I think this one, it should be letter A, review job descriptions. I don't think it's the responsibility, pero i-revisit ko to, but this should be letter A. Review job descriptions. This is not a responsibility of the internal auditors to go over all of the review job descriptions. Okay, but i-revisit ko to, guys. Maybe I can send a note or whatnot for here, but I will take a look into this one. So note muna natin to number 77. Okay? We're almost done. Okay? Auditors document. Okay. Understanding of management internal control with questionnaires, flowcharts, and narrative descriptions. A questionnaire consists of series of questions concerning controls that auditors consider necessary to prevent or detect errors and irregularities. The most appropriate question designed to contribute to the auditor's understanding of the completeness of the expenditure cycle concerns the what? Again, take a look at the question. We are looking at the expenditure cycle. We are trying to see ano dapat yung question or ano dapat yung procedure na ginagawa ni auditor to ensure that the expenditure cycle is complete. Letter A, use a check protection device to imprint check amounts. Letter B, internal verification of quantities, prices, and mathematical accuracy of sales invoices. Letter C, use and accountability of pre-numbered checks. And letter D, qualifications of accounting personnel. Guys, we are looking at the completeness. Okay, I see letter B from Miss Janie and Sir Michael. We are on the expenditure cycle, meaning we are already giving out our checks, no? We are not on the processing, but we are on distributing on the expenditure cycle. So it's not B, but it's letter C. Guys, expenditure cycle. Meaning tapos na nating na-compute lahat to. So tapos na yung letter B. Okay? That's why we wanted to see the completeness of the expenditure cycle because by looking at the pre-numbered checks. Okay? Nasa output to, guys. Okay? Again, completeness. Take note of the term completeness. Yung completeness, usually dikit siya palagi sa mga pre-number checks, record count, total count, something like that. Okay? So number 80, it's letter C. This one. Okay. Very easy. In situations where it is crucial that data be entered correctly, guys, correctly in the accounting information system, the best method of data control would be used is what? We are checking at the correctness of the data. Okay, I see letter B. Ay, wala pa ba? Wala pa. Okay, I see letter C from the three of you guys. Letter C is your reasonableness test or your validation test. Okay? So compatibility, definitely not. Limit check, hindi. Okay. One sec. Okay, so we have here reasonableness check. So validation. We're trying to validate if the data is correct. Crucial. Let's see. Actually, the answer it's letter D. I think I've mentioned, hold on. Key verification is an example. The best method, this crucial enter correctly, is through use of key valid verification. So what is key verification? Control. Okay, so reasonableness check or test is your validity check, and your key verification is you have, if you're familiar with a master file, wherein meron tayong mga key, primary key, no? Meron tayong mga fields doon. So usually, key verification is that you are comparing, no, the information that you have input from another information that is already in the system. Okay? So parang key verification, inuulit mo yung in-input mo and then you are comparing it to what is already documented or what's already existing in the system. Okay? So usually a good example of your key verification is say for example, for invoices, your customer ID, you are doing a key verification. But here, my answer here would be it's either C or D. Okay? Because for reasonableness check, you are also validating the data that you have inputted. Thus, you are also checking the correctness. Okay? So, but balikan ko kayo dito guys. I-take note ko to because I wanted to ensure that I give you the best difference or of this reasonableness test and your key verification. Basta yung key verification, it verifies what you have inputted. Okay? So it verifies from getting an information that is already in the system. Kaya siguro, it can be entered correctly. Because if it cannot verify that this information is really existing, no, it will not allow it to be inputted. Okay, so take note natin yung reasonableness test and this key verification. So number 85. Okay. Okay, we're almost done. Ellen is processing a group of transactions and indicates that as she begins running the program, there are 15 transactions in the batch, totaling $150,000 in orders. This control is related to all of the following except what? This is very easy. This batch is related to all of the following except what? You are processing. Okay. Okay, I see letter D from Sir Michael. How about the rest? Okay, Miss Janie also answered letter D. And Sir Green also answered letter D. So basically that's correct. So it's not part of our the three controls. Again, guys, processing controls are often interdependent with input and output. Syempre, guys, wala kang mapaprocess kung wala kang in-input. Okay? And then the processing, after you process, our expectation is that there would always be an output control. Okay? Okay. Okay, ito. Hindi natin ito ni-discuss, pero I know you can answer this one. This is the last question. When attempting to restore computing facilities at an alternative site following a disaster, which of the following should be restored first? This is very, very important. Is it A, the online system, B, the batch system, C, the decision support system, or letter D, your operating system? Okay, what is our priority? Okay. Anyone? Letter A, online system. I see also Sir Michael answered letter D, operating system. Miss Janie also answered operating system. Okay. The correct answer is letter D. Your operating system component lang niya sa online system. But guys, it's very, very important na pag nagkaroon ng disaster, yung operating system, that's the system running everything. Okay, that's your operating system. Should be the first to be restored. Okay. So that ends our discussion. May utang ako sa inyo guys na 2 question. No, I think that's 785 and 70. So I will take a look into that one. But guys, if you have any questions, let me know. But again, remember yung pag-atake natin ng mga questions. That's how you should answer. Okay? And again, practice answering because at the end of the day, I want you guys to have an encounter of all those terminologies. You can see pa bago-bago talaga yung CMA terminologies. That's how it works. So better be prepared and make sure that you guys are aware of all of those terminologies. Okay? So we'll have more actually on the tech side next week when we'll be discussing about section F. That's a very interesting one. So I'm hoping to see you there again. And again, I appreciate your active participation. So again, thank you so much. And I hope you enjoy the rest of your weekend.